presentation we're giving is not in any way an investment decision, or how do I put it? It's not like a call for you to make an investment exactly like what we have presented. No. We're just sharing experience of what we have seen work in our personal capacities. It worked for you. I always believe that people have the information. I could be wrong, but I always believe people have the information, but sometimes the problem comes in to do what? To implement what you know. I'm going to say this, not because I have anything against motivational speaking, but sometimes we prefer to go for motivational speaking than to go to learn. And unfortunately, people have made motivational speaking big money for themselves. Most of the times you go for this so-called motivational speaking, when you come back, you are stirred up, right? You feel proud, you feel happy, I'll do it when. But the moment you walk out of that place, it's like you have not heard anything. Because half the time, people are just giving you it's a brag sheet, what I call a brag sheet. Yeah? I did this, I was this age when I did this, I did this. So that's what you go out with. I did this, I did this. But how does the I did this help you as an individual? So we need to have where somebody tells, okay, this is a product. These product dimensions are like this. If you do this, the outcome will be like this. At least that way it helps you, right? Because it's giving you tools of how you can help yourself. So yes, motivation is required, it has its place, but I think we are over-motivated sometimes to an extent where we fail to do what we are supposed to do. I know that doesn't sound good. The pastor in the morning made one statement, and I agree with that statement 100%. Is Pastor Chisola here? Can I see Pastor Chisola? What about Pastor Mwinga? Pastor Mwinga is here? He's outside. Okay, so Pastor Chisola made a statement and made service which was underlining on the issue of hope. And to borrow his words, he said from the eschatological point of view, hope is what underpins what we believe in. And he's very right, 100%. It's because of the hope that Christ is coming. That's why we're here, right? If you take out the issue of Christ coming, the hope of Christ's return, I bet there will be half people in here. Because this church will just become like any other charitable society or other social gathering. But what sets us apart is that we are holding on to the hope of the coming of who? Of Christ. Okay? That's very true, and I agree with the pastor. However, for this presentation, for a presentation like this one on wealth creation, hope is not a strategy. You heard that one, right? Hope is not a strategy, and hope has never been a strategy. You can't just hope that things will change. You're just waiting and you're hoping. Are things going to change? They won't change. So you find that we procrastinate a lot. I'll do this tomorrow, I'll do this, I'm hoping I'll do this, I'm hoping. Every year you are hoping. It will not help you. So what we're saying, well, on the Christian point of view, in terms of our matters of salvation, hope is a very good essential to have, ingredient to have. But when it comes to matters of investment, you have to be what? Deliberate. Have hope, but also do something, so that the hope you have and the actions you're putting, when you put them together, you're able to realize something. Amen? I hope I'm not dividing my audience with these statements. Sometimes, as elders, we speak too much, not realizing that you're injuring people. But, I mean, we have to say things as they are. I think the time for giving sugar-coated messages is gone. When we're talking about matters of life and death, we need to speak it the way it is, okay? Okay, so, as at last week, we did part one, and part one had this overview, where we essentially looked at what debt is, the type of debts that are there. We looked at it from the biblical point of view. Is it sinful to be in debt? Is it okay? What does the Bible talk about people that were in debt? What are some of the connotations we get from debt stories in the Bible? And we spent more time to discover what we called the debt triggers, the areas that can easily push you over the edge into debt. Why did we spend my time to talk about those 6 triggers? Is because to be forearmed is what? To be forewarned is to be forearmed. That's what they say. So if you know what will trigger something in you, so you will try to avoid that. So we talked about 6 different triggers there, and we spent much time into it. After we talked about the triggers, we asked ourselves the question, okay, look, yes, knowing the triggers is one thing, but me, my situation, I'm already in debt. So what do I do? So we talked about it, how you can come out of debt and everything. That's where we ended, I think, last week. Then now, for today, it's wealth creation. This is now what we're going to look at. So we're going to look at wealth as an entrusted talent. Wealth, which we have, we're saying it's an entrusted talent. How is it an entrusted talent? So we'll look at that one. Then we're going to look at, maybe just as a way of revision, some of the biblical teachings on wealth and see what we can get from that. And then we're going to look into the concept of generational wealth. This is very important, right? Generational wealth. Then we're going to look at, give an overview spectrum of what wealth is. Then we'll try and look at the issue of cash flows and capital gains. Now, as I said last week, these terminologies, let us not get discouraged or confused by them. These are simple things. We'll talk about them in layman's language. Okay, then we're going to look at the issue of portfolio diversification. I've included a slide that is not here. That is, I should have changed it on the overview for the sake of Sister Colina. Before portfolio diversification, there's a slide I've put there. That's debt arbitrage. Debt arbitrage. That slide is just trying to answer the question: is all debt bad? How can I use debt to make money? How can I make debt work to my what? To my advantage. So there's like a slide there where we'll do a little bit of some computation so that we can help us. And then we look at the portfolio diversification. Everyone's talking about diversification. So we'll look at that one. Then we'll look at what I call an investment triangle. And then finally, this is the longest part of our presentation on the investment options. So what are some of the options we can use for us to make our money? We spend a lot of money on government securities, bonds, treasury bills, or fixed deposits, mutual funds, real estate, and whatever might come our way. And then we'll wrap it up. So that's the overview of the lesson that we have. And by the way, if you have a question from the last discussion we had, please feel free to stop me, or you can even just write and send me a paper. We can address it. So this is what we looked last week. No need to go through it again. Let me just go to, we covered 14 slides. This presentation is 30 slides. So today we are covering the last 16 slides. Okay, so we ended here. So now we are starting here. This is today's lesson. The singing group, when they come, Eudantinga, let me know. Are they here? Let them bless us with one song. Please bless us with one song as we go to the first slide.
new.
Tekela gaba bonfimu no chalo moneni mpanga shakwalesa ishoshile ya mumatololo kashibwesheni mweba chetekela Fimu no chalo moneni pangasha kwalesa ishoshile ya mumatololo kashibwesheni mwebantu bamujalo ale twita ifwe bonse
Ekapela
Pela uwamwe
welele
Mwebantu bamujalo
ale
Twita ifwe bonse
Ekapela
Pela uwamwe Twila tendwa ukula wombela Yesu katula umfweni mpupili shoshabulwi ulupato kubantu muchalo Yesu aletwita mwila tendwa lyonse ukula wombela Yesu katula umfweni mpupili shoshabulwi ulupato kubantu muchalo Yesu aletwita
welele
mwebantu bamuchalo
ale twita
ifwe bonse
Ekapela
Pela uwamwe
welele
mwebantu bamujalo
ale
twita ifwe bonse
Ekapela
Pela uwamwe
Ekapela
Pela uwamwe
Ekapela
Pela uwamwe
Thank you so much. It was refreshing to hear the blending of the voices, and Elder Hamoya, as ever, giving us that sharp-faced tenor. Thank you so much for the song. Okay, so now when we talk about wealth creation, the term wealth is a little bit relative or subjective. Most of the times when you think about wealth, you're thinking about those big, big things, right? I don't know, is our mic okay? You can give it a bit of some volume. Sometimes when we think about wealth, we're just thinking about those big things. But you see later on as we describe what wealth is, it depends on what is available on your side. So most of the times we're just thinking, look, as long as I don't reach that level of riches, then you think you're not wealthy. So to us, we're not the wealthy people, we're the poor people. But you realize that actually the term itself, wealth, is quite relative. So as I said at the beginning, let's not just hope. Hope is not a strategy. We need to put things. In football, they will tell you that sometimes attack is the best form of what? Of defense. Okay? You find that there are certain coaches for football teams, they will have a very strong attack. And because they are always attacking, they are not giving the opponents an opportunity to do what? To attack them also. It's the same thing when we look at wealth creation. The triggers we were talking about last week about debt, where we're saying debt is a problem. If you create so much wealth, it takes care of the debt. So you find that you do not find yourself in a situation where you are in debt because almost at every particular time, you are generating new streams of what? Of revenue. So when wealth creation, always remember that sometimes attacking is the best form of defense. That's why you find that the people we consider to be very wealthy, they appear to be always busy trying to do something new, everything new, because they have learned it that the more you attack, it means you have already defended yourself and things just fall in place. Our key text for this presentation is what Elder Chongo talked about last week, Ecclesiastes chapter 9. We will read verse 10 and 11. So I'll need somebody to read that. Maybe we can have a mic that can go out, and whoever will receive the mic, it will mean that's the one who will be reading for us for the rest of the afternoon. So Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10 and 11. That's the key text for everything. We talked about last week. We can repeat it. Teachers say repetition is the best form of what? Of learning. So anyone to read it? Even if the mic is not with you, you can stand and read. Anyone? The church doesn't want to read. Yes, Elder Chongo. Verse 11. Yes. Yet. Yes. Okay. Now, there's certain keywords. Thanks, Elder Chongo. And my rule is that the one who reads first or answers the question first is the bravest in the team. And being brave always has a reward. Okay, so the key words I want you to take from that. The first one was saying, whatever your hand finds to do. Now, are our hands going to find the same thing to do? It's different, right? So already there, that's a distinguishing factor. What my hand might find very easy to do and to the best of my ability may not be what Sister Mwemba will find also easy for them. So the key issue here is identify that thing which you find. Now, when you find it, it says, do it what? To the best of your ability. It gives the reason why you should do it to the best of your ability, because we know that at some point, all of us were going to do what? To die. Okay, so the key text is whatever you find. And then the next part there on verse 11, I emphasized it last week, is that you are not in competition with anyone. Your race is for you. You are unique. It says the race is not for the swift. It's not the one who sprints first who wins. That's what the Bible says. And it's not, if you go further there, it's saying that even the battle is not always for the strong. In fact, now the battle has changed. I was reading on CNN last week where the Ukraine President Zelensky is asking the permission from the UK and the US to use some of the ballistic missiles that they have, where they should launch them right from the comfort of their country and they will destroy opposition targets. Now, if you look at this, all they are saying is, we don't want to go into combat where we're going to lose people, but we want to launch the fight from just within our territory. What's the point we're trying to say here? Things now have been sophisticated that you do not necessarily have to come and prove to everyone that you are strong. But you can work with your head. Have you ever heard of things saying, now you don't work hard, you work what? You work smart. Okay? So there are processes that have been devised that the work that previously it would take you 8 hours to do, you find that you're doing it with what? Within 2 hours. You're working smart. Okay? You're not working hard, you're working smart. But the question is, now that you have the extra 6 hours, what do you do with it? Does it mean because I'm working smart now, after 2 hours I knock off? No. It means the extra 6 hours that have remained, you can do other smart things. At the end, you find that you will be working smart and hard at the same time. Okay? This is what the Bible is telling us here. And I will emphasize again and again and again, play to your strength. And once you identify your strength, reach to the full potential of your strength. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes we flatter ourselves, say, look, I'm doing very fine. And maybe people will look at you saying, this person is doing very fine. But the question I'll ask for you, are you playing to your full potential? The resources that have been put in your plate.
Hello.
Thank you. The resources that have been put in your plate, are you sure you are using them to the best of your ability? Or are you sure you are playing? Yeah, now this one is worse, right? This one I can literally hear myself. It's okay? Okay, so sometimes you can actually seemingly be doing better than others, but if we measure you against your own litmus test of potential, you still fail that test. But everyone else that is looking at you, they're saying, this brother is doing very well. The thing is, identify your full potential in that particular. If you are doing let's say, you are doing tomatoes, okay? Your capital base is big. Why should you be producing the same number of crates as with somebody whose capital base is small? When you go to Soweto market to sell, all of you with a big capital base, you are selling 100 boxes. The one with a small capital base is also selling 100 boxes. More prayer. We're in trouble here, right? So the problem with interactions is that the small challenge I'll have with interaction is that it destroys the thought process. So you find that the thought process will have to be repeated, and sometimes it doesn't come back. And that's the problem that I always have. Yeah, what was I saying now? Tomatoes, yeah, okay. So, yeah, I was giving an example. I was saying, if I have a big capital base and I'm selling 100 tomatoes, somebody has a small capital base, very minute capital base, is selling, let's say, 80 tomatoes. Anybody who looks from outside, they'll think me selling 100 tomatoes boxes, I'm doing better than the 80. But the truth of the matter is the one doing 80 is actually doing better than me because he's playing to his potential than me who is underutilizing what I have. So what's the point here? The point here, the Bible says, do everything to the best of what? Of your knowledge. Whatever you find to do it very big. That was just introduction. But okay, now, the thing is now, from the spirit of prophecy, how does Ellen White talk about wealth? Okay, maybe it's good to start from there. The starting point is that we should not despise wealth as Christians. And I will just quote it straight from the spirit of prophecy. Ellen White in the book Counsels on Stewardship, chapter 28. Yes, I just picking a small extract. Said the followers of Christ are not to despise what? Wealth. We are not to despise wealth. Why? It says they are to look upon wealth as the Lord's entrusted talent. Okay? So, The way you look at your talent, that's how you look at wealth. Just look at it as if God has entrusted you with talent. It says, by the wise use of this gift, this talent that is, they may be internally benefited. But we are to bear the fact in mind that God has not given us riches to use just as we do what? Fancy, or to indulge, impulse, or to bestow or withhold as we shall what? Please. Okay? We shall not use wealth in a selfish way. Devoting them simply to our own what? Enjoyment. So what Sister White is saying here is that each and every one of us, in whatever regard, God has given us, has entrusted in us wealth. Why do we say God has entrusted? Because we know whatever is in this world belongs to who? To God. Okay, that's Psalms chapter 24, verse 1 and 2. The Bible says, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So, as a starting point, there's nothing that belongs to us. It belongs to God, okay? Psalm 50 verse 10, it says, for every beast of the forest is whose? It's mine. That's what God, for every beast of the forest is mine. And the cattle upon what? 1,000 hills. Again, Odamnaloro got it right when he was praying. He mentioned it correctly. You own a cattle on 1,000 hills, not 1,000 cattle on a hill. No, that's wrong. 1,000 hills, all the 1,000 hills, they have cattle. Okay? So, because of this, what Ellen White is saying, when you get your wealth, support God's cause. And there, to me, is lesson number one. Sometimes the reason why we are stagnant in our wealth growth is because we are selfish. We want to keep things to ourselves. We don't want to be relevant to other people. We just think about ourselves. So here he says, the liberal spirit is the one that makes you grow. Oh, I forgot I have a pointer, so I'm using laptop. Technical team, sorry. You gave me a pointer. The next point is generally. What does the Bible talk about wealth? I'm just spending a little bit of some time on this so that after these two slides, we're not going back to the Bible. We're just going to the actual stuff of wealth creation. But these, I think, there's one more slide on the Bible. So, biblical teachings on wealth accumulation. So we're saying, generally speaking, there's nothing wrong to desire for what? For wealth. And we talked about this last week, the 3 John 1 verse 2, which says, beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest what? Prosper. Okay, so there's nothing wrong in having wealth, okay? However, where's the problem? It says, however, insatiable cravings or obsessive desire for riches that may easily lead to greed, okay, if not carefully checked. So, sometimes, yes, much as getting wealth is good, but if there is the underlying word there is insatiable cravings. There's some people that are just so obsessed with wealth that you even forget about your health. You spend all the time pursuing wealth at the detriment of your own health. The people in medicine, they always tell us that your health is your what? Is your wealth. So if you ignore your health, at some point, you will spend all the money to make your wealth. At the end of the wealth journey, you will spend all the wealth to regain your health. That is, if you are lucky to regain it. Okay, so you need to have a fine balance between getting wealth and also being relevant to God. Now, 2 Timothy chapter 6, from 6 to 10, it says, goodliness with contentment is what? It's great gain. We brought nothing in this world, and it is certain that we will carry nothing out. The issue that Paul is addressing here is the issue of us to be contented with what we get. Now, please make no mistake. Contentment and mediocre are two different things. Okay? Contentment is you to have that spirit of appreciation of what you have and knowing that, okay, look, God has blessed me with this thing. Okay? It does not in any way limit ambition. Okay? Remember the potential we talked about here. The latter part of that verse says, it says, but having food and remnant, other version says clothes, let us be therefore content. For the love of money is the root of what? Of all evil. Now, that's another Bible study on its own to talk about the love of money being the root of all evil. And I will leave that to Pastor Mwinga to come and deal with that one. The last verse we want to look at there is Matthew chapter 19, verse 24. It says, it is easier for the what? For the camel to go through the needle of an eye, or the eye of a needle, than for the rich man to enter where? That verse is always misunderstood. I don't know whether we just choose to misunderstand it or it's a difficult verse. Okay? Mostly we said, we always blanket people who are rich that they won't go into heaven, and we cite this verse. That's not what this verse is talking about. Okay? There are things here that maybe if we had time, we can have to unbundle about this. All it's saying is, look, the need of an eye, we all know the need of an eye, right? If you get a needle, you want to put a cotton in there, a thread. Actually, nowadays, I struggle even to insert the cotton there. My eyes can't do that anymore. My son will do it within a second. She will insert that thing. But now, the context in which this is being brought from the Bible is about, in the olden days, the camel was the source of what? Of transportation. And there was a gate where if you want to enter into a city, it will be a very narrow gate, maybe through the wall. For a cattle to go there, you have to remove the burden. It has to kneel down and go through. All what Christ was saying is, if you are coming to me, you need to remove all your excess luggage. It is very difficult for you to come to Christ whilst you are still clinging to what? To the luggage. That luggage is what the camel is carrying. So he's saying, look, it's very difficult for the camel. It's easier actually for a camel to go through the need of an eye than for a rich man to come to me. The application is from the spiritual point of view, saying that come to Christ as what? As you are. Remove that burden, then you go through that. So let's not misunderstand that verse anymore. The next slide, which is the last slide on quoting from the Bible, is the issue of generational wealth being a divine initiative. What is generational wealth? When we talk about generational wealth, we're talking about you being able to live wealth which will stand a test of time, generation after what? Generation. This is what the Bible says. Psalm 27 verse 3 says, Lord, children are what? An inheritance from the Lord. If we read the next verse, it says, blessed is the one who has so many in his quiver. Okay? When we have our children, God has given us already what? Some wealth, which we need to exploit. That's why we always say, the best ever wealth that you can give to your children is what? It's education. Because once you educate them, then you know that they will be able to navigate through all the ways of life. Proverbs 13 verse 23 says, a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the what? For the just. Now this one, I don't know whether you notice something a little bit interesting in this verse. Especially the first line, which says, a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children. What does that tell you? If I was to be considered to be successful in my life, there is no way my father and my mother can claim that they have done a good job, that's why I'm successful. That's what this Bible is saying. If I'm successful, who planted that in me? Huh? Yeah? Just speak out. My parents, my immediate parents. That's not what this Bible is saying. The one who should take the credit if I'm to be successful is my grandfather and my grandmother, not my parents. That's the concept of generational wealth. Now, most of us, we are looking at our immediate children. Okay? If I pass on my wealth to my son and my daughter, I'm considering myself as a very wealthy. From the biblical point of view, actually, I've not created generational wealth. It's saying, a good man leaveth inheritance to his children's children. Okay. So we need to get that very right. When we are planning, we're not just planning of our immediate children. We are planning of our children's children. That's where we end. If it goes to the 4th and 5th generation, we praise God for it. But most of the time you find that, and this is where the Western world, they beat us. When they create those trusts, okay, so we're not going to talk about trust and everything. That's a different discussion altogether. But our friends, they create trust that work for a very long time. You find that the person would have died a long time ago. But their wealth and their effort is still what? It's still moving. Okay? That's what our friends do. That concept is biblical. So why am I bringing this? I know sometimes we have messed up, we have not understand things. But there's always a start point, Udaluka. We always have to think about it, okay? You will see when you go into the actual presentations that it's never too late for you to be able to start and go on this wealth creation journey. Okay, so the ideal situation is that let our wealth stand a test of time. We know that our children can never inherit our jobs. That's not true. Okay, maybe in the olden days, I think I heard in the mines it was very prevalent. If a parent dies, they'll maybe employ some children. But you know what? Your job is not transferable. It's not transferable. What is it that the children can inherit from you? It's wealth. So if you create wealth, you know, yes, even as they cry, yes, there's something they are crying on. Let not the crying of the children and the widow be crying because now they know that their life has just come to an end. At least let them have a base where they can start from, okay? So education for the children, coupled with a bit of some wealth, gives our children a head start. At least, okay? But imagine if they don't have the education. Two, they don't also have any wealth. They are screaming against the tide, eh? Because the society is very competitive. I always tell my children, the society where you're growing in is very competitive. There are tons and tons of people that will probably have the same qualifications that you have. And for you to compete for that job market or whatever business, you really have to stand out from everybody else. So, me as a parent, or me and my wife as parents to those children, is to ensure that as we work on the education part, we also work on the wealthy part so that they can combine the two. It will probably give them a head start. And not only just about the children, by the way, even about ourselves. Because time will come when you are unable to do the things that you are able to do now. Okay? What will carry you then is what you would have invested. Okay? Now, let's now look at what does the health spectrum looks like. Now, this is now like the broad way in which we're going to approach this subject, okay? So we're saying, if you want to look for a definition of wealth is the value or the worth of assets, resources that is accumulated by somebody, okay? Now, if you notice from this definition, it's just saying it's the assets that are accumulated by somebody. The assets can be different. Somebody can accumulate a plate as an asset and put it in his will. Somebody can accumulate a car and put in the will. Both of you have accumulated what? Assets. Because that is what you are able to do. So we're saying the value or worth of scarce assets or resources accumulated by a person, that is your wealth. Okay? Secondly, you can say wealth simply refers to the amount of money and possession that what? Somebody have. When we just look at you, okay, Elder Kalumbu, this is what he has, that is your wealth. No one should come and tell you what you have is not wealth. On what basis? Where I'm seated, that is wealth. Do you know where I have come from? Even to reach where I am here. Yeah, I've come along, so this is my wealth. So in short, what we are saying from this definition, we're just saying wealth is very subjective. It is very subjective. And as such, everyone now has an opportunity. Now, usually when we talk about wealth and the investment options, they will fall in either one of these two categories. They either fall in the savings category, or they'll fall into what? The investment, or there will be a combination of both, and many others. So, personally, I'm just talking about what I know. If there are others, yes, we can also share as we will be discussing, okay? So what we're saying is the starting point is that resources are always what? Very scarce. Resources, the resource base or the capital base usually is very scarce. Now, because it's very scarce, you and I has to be very strategic. Okay? You know, you have too many things chasing very little money. So you have to be very strategic. You need to evaluate what we call the risk against your return. So we're going to say, if this resource is so scarce, these are the opportunities I have to put the money. What return am I going to get from each of these? So you need to do a very critical evaluation, which we're going to look at it later on. evaluate how much return I can get from each. At the end of the day, the aim is to pick the best possible outcome. Remember what the gentleman last week who asked a question towards the end of the presentation. We were saying, look, if I have something very urgent, actually that question was asked to me and Sister Alwampa, if you remember, towards the end of the presentation. The gentleman, look, you're saying borrowing from microfin could be very expensive, but if I have a project that needs funding, and if I go to the bank, it will take 2-3 months from them, 2-3 weeks to give me money. But I'll lose what? The business. What do I do? Do I take that expensive money? You remember that question last week? Hopefully we can deal with it also today. So what we're saying is you need to evaluate your risks and your return. And at the end of the day, if your risk return is looking positive, or it's looking like, look, I'll come out with something, then you go for it. Why should you not do it? So all we're saying is start small, okay? There's a West African saying that you do not test the depth of the river with what? With both legs, okay? You're just coming, you find it was raining, and then the road is flooded. And you go and test with, do you test with both legs? You test with one leg, and then you feel. If you feel it's going to take you, you move out. You can even use maybe a tree to depth. It's the same thing with investments. Some of the biggest mistakes I've seen with people is that they just hate that, okay, kulindrama in this thing, and then you just go and get all your money, boom, into that particular business. What happens? You lose everything, right? So you start small, see how it comes out, and then eventually you are going to make it. Now, let me dwell a little bit on savings and investment and try to make a distinction between the two, okay? So when we talk about saving, in broad terms, we are talking about preserving for what? For the rainy day. The Tongas, they say, Mazu wangu na masando, Sister Mwemba. That's what the Tongas say. So savings, basically looking at, okay, look, worst case scenario, if things go bad, what do I have to what? To fall back on, okay? That's your saving. And what are some of those things you'll be looking at? You'll be looking at, oh, well, maybe I could have a medical situation. What if I fell sick at some point? I will need something to fall back. Or maybe it could be education. Look, I could lose my mainstream job. What will happen to my children? My children are still young. They are going to school. Okay? So I need to put something aside so that it can take care of their education needs. And we'll look at some of the things that we can do to do that. Or sometimes it can just, for your own personal sustenance, when you grow up, you don't have much more energy in your old age. You need something to sustain you. And it's those small cash flows. If you ask Sister Alwampa here, will tell you about things like annuities where people are getting money for the rest of their lives after they have retired. You might think it might amount to a small. They're small now because you are getting your salary and you have your business. But when you're not doing anything, believe you me, those funds are going to be very big to you. So those are the things we're looking about on savings. And also, we save posterity reasons. You know, sometimes life can judge you harshly, right? You've pushed 5 years, 10 years in an institution, and all of a sudden you are retrenched and you have nothing. Posterity surely will judge you harsh. People will say, but where were the savings? Okay? So the point I'm trying to make here is, the savings is more preserving for a rainy day. The question I always get most of the time, but what's the best way to save? Because I started putting money aside every month I get my salary. So what happens is, month 1, you put money aside. Month 2, money aside. Month 3, money aside. Month 4, you blow everything. Does that sound familiar? You do not only blow everything, you even go into debt. That's what happens. That's one scenario. Another scenario is, and this is what most of us say, no, what? There's nothing to save because at the end of the month, actually, I'm negative. When I take out all my expenditure, I take out my rentals, I take out everything, what, I'm actually remaining with nothing to save. And most of us have found comfort in that, said, but there's nothing. If there's nothing, there is nothing. Or if you tell you, do you want me to show you my pay slip? I'll show you. Okay? When the bank takes their portion, ZRI their portion, microfin their portion, school fees, I really do not have something at the end of the day. That sounds familiar. I can see people are smiling. But guess what? You can save even in that scenario. How do you do it? So this is what I always advise. when it comes to saving, you should always have an end game. Hello? You should have what? An end game. So an end game could be you tell yourself, and it's similar to what Sister Alwamba talked about last week when she was talking about whether you do chilimba or you go it your personal way. An end game, you tell yourself, realistically speaking, how much do I want to have in my saving by the end of, let's say, this year? You can give you whatever time frame you give yourself. Let's go with 1 year because it's very easy to go with a year. If you tell yourself, at the end of this year, Brother Kaluba, I want to have in my saving account, let's say 20,000. Let's be modest. I just want 20,000. It tells you that in this year, if you want to make, okay, let's say you want to make 24,000 in a year for ease of calculation. So it means every month, how much do you need to put aside? 2,000, right? So what we're saying is, for saving to be effective, you need to first have an end game. Once you have an end game, then it will force you to dedicate a particular amount for the month. Now, it means that amount now will be on your budgeting. It should be treated as what? As an outflow, right? It should be the first outflow. So it doesn't matter whether I have school fees, doesn't matter whether I have rentals. I've defined it as an outflow. In some time back, would say, actually put a standing order for that amount with the bank so that you're not tempted to touch it. But I'm reluctant to say you put a standing order because standing orders have landed people in trouble. And that you end up now being accused of overdrawing the account, and they say issuing an instruction on an insufficiently funded account, and it's a criminal offense, in this country. So, because of that, what we're saying is, have the discipline of saying, if I want to put 500 every month, when the money comes, before I do everything, like what we do tithe. Tithe, we don't wait until we spend. The moment you allow spending before you touch tithe, what happens? It's gone. The treasurer will not see the thing. So with tithe, when you just see that we call it the TXN, the transaction notification, right? When the TXN hit boom, the first transaction you do what? Is tithe. Why do you do it that way? Because you know that I do not want to fall into a temptation of not returning what belongs to God. God's money has to go immediately. So I'm saying this is the very good concept you can also use when it comes to saving. You treat it as a mandatory expenditure. So it comes, it goes. That way, you are assured of having an end game that is what? Sustained. It sounds very, how do I put it? Very basic and elementary. But how to implement it, it requires a lot of will. Also, another simple way, and look, we're talking about simple way, things you know already. I'm not telling you of the things you don't know. And I'm just reminding you of what you are supposed to be doing. Okay? Another way could be there's a lot of loose cash that comes your way, which is not part of your mainstream sources of income. How do you treat that? Most of the time when that loose cash comes, it's where we even dream of expenditure that did not exist, even in the first place. I still have my salary. Now, what we're saying is, if you have a plan where you're cutting from your salary any amount, putting aside for savings, and all of a sudden, boom, God gives you some big money. Actually, that money should be subjected to more stringent saving methodology than your usual salary. Because it's a windfall. You never had it before. So that if you instill that discipline within yourself, you realize that over a short period of time, you make a lot of money. Now, somebody will say, no, but you're talking about people who are working, who have a regular salary. What about me? The truth of the matter here is the presentation is not about people who are in formal employment. The presentation is for anyone, whether your money is periodical or quarterly, you're in business. Sometimes business cycles doesn't allow you to get cash flows every month, right? Elder Kaluba will tell you here, business sometimes can take even 6 months, right, for that cash flow. So what we're saying is, the principle you apply, it should just be the same. Whether it's coming weekly, others I hear they get weekly wages, okay? The principle is basically the same. All we are saying is, have a plan to save for the rainy day. What about when you cross over to the investment side? So investments, we're saying, investments has to do with preservation, value preservation of what you have, or growth. Okay? This is where I'm saying, look, I have this asset. How can this asset give me more than what it's currently giving me? So we're looking at growth. I know there's a thin line between the two. Most of the time, to be honest with you, we use the two terms interchangeably. We talk about saving, investment. We talk about like the same thing. But when you look at it with we narrow down in a microscopic view, you realize that actually, on the investment side, we are more concerned with capital gains, windfall gains, and which are supposed to be what? Over a longer period of time. So on the investment, and this is what we're going to look at in the presentation, we're going to look at things like financial assets, and we're going to look at as well as the fixed assets. Okay, so broaden up when you go into the slides that talk about it. But what we're saying there is, for investment, these investments can either be tangible assets, things that you can touch, you can see them, tangible assets, things like real estate, or they couldn't be intangible. They could be things like investments like stocks, what we call the collectible items, bonds and everything. We'll look into that. But the overall message on this slide is that you need to have savings and you need to have investments, or you need to have both. If you have both these two, it sets you at a very good pace. So you already start asking yourself, okay, so, and by the way, usually it's the savings that graduates into an investment. Yeah, no matter what we talked about, if you have an end game, you're going to make 24,000. When that end of the year comes with that 24,000, so the next question you're asking yourself, no, if I manage to make 24,000, I can actually make 48,000 next month. So what do I do? So you take out that 24,000, put it in an investment now. Okay, so you find that a savings has graduated into an investment. So it's the playbook there. It's very elementary and very easy. Something that we can do. It just requires willpower. Now let's look at what I call the investment triangle. Now the investment triangle, and we're repeating ourselves. We talked about last week is for investments and savings. The first point is that you need to start what as early as possible. Now, this is maybe where I need to speak to the young ones, the youths, those who are still in school. You know, sometimes they have this notion that, look, I still have a long life ahead of you. Not that you don't have, yes, probably you have a long life ahead of you. He said, look, I'll get serious this issue of investments maybe when I'm in my 30s, or maybe the time when I have a bigger salary. There is no better time to start than to do things a little bit much earlier. I don't know whether it's here or elsewhere where somebody was giving. It's here, actually. It was at main service here. The guy who was giving the offertory talk. Is he here? The one who gave offertory talk at main service. Okay. Yeah, so what the gentleman was talking about was an issue of where you can inculcate the spirit of saving and returning to God, even when you're in a school situation, okay? There's so much money you get. Even the BC you get at the university, you know what you can save from the BC. So you need to start very early, okay? Once you start early, you need also to be very disciplined to avoid the discussion we had last week, the debt trap. Most of us, we just walk right into the issue of debt. I don't want to be tempted to go back to the debt trap. We talked about it last week, 2 hours here talking about debt trap, so I don't want to go to it. But you need to avoid that, you need discipline. You need to have very discipline. And then lastly, on that point, we talked about it again last week. What we are saying is be strategic and play to your strength. Your strength and my strength are not the same. So know what comes naturally to you and do it, okay? So we're saying, now, the older folks will say, but you're saying start early as we're already in the afternoon of our lives. Though it's encouraged to start early, it's never also too late for you to start the journey of investment. So you can start at any time, but guess what? You work twice as much as you would have worked if you started much early. Because now you are working backwards. You're working against the odds. So it becomes a little bit much difficult, but you can still do it. So now, let's talk about this issue of cash flows and capital gains. Feel free to stop me for a song. Maybe we can have a song, right? Are you cool? We continue? Yeah, okay? Okay, no commercial break. I have this weakness of just speaking continuously. So If my MC does not stop me, believe you me, I'll speak up to the end of the presentation. Okay, so this issue of cash flow versus capital gains. Now, when we talk about cash flow, strictly speaking, we're just talking about payments that are coming in and out of a particular account. We're just talking about transactions. Okay? That's what we're talking about, cash flow. And we're talking about capital gains, we're just talking about the issues. How has that particular value, that asset, how is the change in value of that asset over a particular period of time? Okay? An easy way to look at it is, I have a house this year, which when we do evaluation, it's valued at 1 million. If I do the similar valuation next year or the other year, they say it's now at 1.5. It means it is a capital gain of what? Of 500. Whether realized or unrealized, it's a gain. Okay? Now, assets grow like that. Okay? So that's what, so we're going to see. So the issue here is which one is better? To have a better cash flow or to have a better capital gain? Let me just ask maybe, which one do you think is better? To have a good cash flow or good capital gains? When you're looking at investment, which one do you think is your target? Just anyone? Any attempt? I said last week, I said whatever you're answering is from your perspective. There is no wrong, there's no right answer. Anyone to attempt? There's a hand there, Elder Momba. I don't know whether this can reach there. Maybe they can give you another one.
Capital gain is good. Capital gain is good for a person who already has a steady cash flow. A young man who's working, who's gotten a capital, it works well for them. But if you have got the assets and are not giving you the cash flow, you can starve. You've got all these assets, but they are just gaining that intrinsic value. You cannot eat from capital gains, but you can eat from the cash flows. So I think that's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Elder Momba. And that's precisely it. If the long and short of what he's saying is that you need what? Both. Okay? The lifeline, you are lucky that you are the second bravest, and there was a second present for the second bravest person, and this is where they end. You can pass it to Elder Momba. So what we're saying here is, you need to have a blend of the two. You've heard this term that cash flow is a bloodline of a what? Of a business. So like he has put it, you can have a lot of assets with intrinsic value that is high, but are you going to eat a market value? Unless you crystallize it or you liquidate that particular asset or you trade it, okay? We don't want to get into those things. It will just be a value that this is Brother Luca has 5,000 hectares in Monze. The value has gone up. Is he eating that value? No. Okay? So you need to have a blend, and this is what we'll talk about, blend between what you're seeing as a cash flow and what you are seeing as capital gains. Now, strictly speaking, how you are running your investment falls between two broad spectrums, and there could be more. Okay, I've chosen to move with two. You could either be moving in the capital, in the passive, you could take a passive approach to investments, okay? A passive approach. Passive, by definition, the word passive, it means it's the opposite of active. So, that's why they are opposed to each other. Passive meaning, let me just read as it is. When you are taking the passive approach, you're saying there's a minimal supervision. So this is a situation where you have capital, you have the money, but you don't have the what? The time. Okay? You have the money, but you don't have the time. So you look for an investment that will require very minimal supervision. You put money there. You are probably what others would say a sleeping partner when you were still in secondary school. But there are better terms now. There's nothing like sleeping partner. You're an equity partner in that one, or you're an investor. Okay? So you choose an investment that requires minimal supervision. And then normally the passive approach is capital intensive. So this is where maybe you say, okay, look, can I can I deploy these funds that I excess funds or idle funds? Because remember, also idle funds are very expensive. You can't be keeping money on your account that is not earning zero. The bank will be very happy, by the way. If you don't prompt it, yes, we'll be paying you minimal. But for you, you're looking at that excess money. My job is very busy. From 6 to 6, I'm at the office. I don't have time to do this. Then now you can choose a passive investment. In this passive investment, there will be very minimal administrative costs. Because usually what makes business very expensive is things like salaries, the overheads, those costs, you accountants, about those costs very well. That's what makes it very expensive. But if you're going the passive route, it's a situation where you're investing in a fund and you leave your money there. So you're sleeping, your money is what? Is working for you. So it has very minimal administrative costs. We'll have practical examples about this. I'm just giving the two broad spectrums. And then most of the times, the passive investments, most of the time they are risk-free. There are others that there's a very big risk, like if you put in a stock market and you have not defined they have not done a correct credit assessment of you on your risk appetite, and they've put your funds in an investment that is high risk, whereby you can probably even lose your capital. So you cannot say it's risk-free, right? Because you could lose. But generally speaking, if you are a person that categorized as a low-risk person, you don't want to go into high risk, even the assets that will be proposed for you, and we'll look into them, are those that probably they'll give a small return, but the chances are that the risks are very minimal. And in this particular approach, we're saying the investor sits in the balcony. You're not part of the people that are running your investment. All you know is, I've put money, you promised me 10%, I'll wait for my 10%. So you're in a passive investment. So it does not affect you, your lifestyle, you continue doing your things. It becomes very good, because that way you know that money is coming even though you're not working. The very opposite is on the other side when we talk about the active approach. So the active approach is now you have to micromanage. Okay? You need to constantly supervise. I've put money there. I may trust the people who are there, but I need to see it. Okay? And this is very common to maybe people self-businesses or maybe SMEs and what. You've put your money, you really have to micromanage it. So this one is labor intensive because you need to put your hours. Somebody was saying, we're just discussing this week. He says, look, I had about 6 or 5 small vehicles that they put on Yango. He says they were doing very well, but I noticed that because I was not supervising these people, so they were bringing the minimum amount we have agreed. But the usage on the vehicles was just so much such that when the time you're going to service them and do other things, it was actually eating all the money. You see, all the money that is coming is being eaten in Sister Member in all the space. And then what the person didn't know is that actually those guys were actually building and doing some other project on the other side. So in short, they were getting rich on you. On your asset, other people are getting rich. Now, this is the active investment we're talking about. So we're saying if your route is to go into the active part of investment, be ready to get your hands dirty. Trust nobody. It's a bad thing to say in church. But you see, you need to ensure that your eyes is there. Microscopic view of everything that's happening. Because in an active investment, the moment you sleep, your capital also disappears. So you have to be very careful. So predominantly, you're targeting cash flows. The gains might be very little. Okay, people who run like grocery business, they'll tell you the margins that they are getting there, the profit margins are very little. But what makes them continue doing that business? It's a volumes game. So if you know you're playing that particular business, make sure that your marketing strategies are such way that you're going to be selling more for you to compensate to make more profit. So it's a volumes game. So what we're saying is the upside is usually uncapped. How much money you can make in an active investment is a function of how much energy you have and the hours you're putting in that particular business. That's what will make the delta for you, okay? So the upside, that's what we're saying, the upside is uncapped. You can make as much as possible. Unfortunately, the downside is also uncapped. You can also lose everything. That's the unfortunate part of it. You can also lose everything. So you need to be very prudent in that. So an active investor is always on the dance floor. You are dancing to the tunes of the business. That's what it means to be an active. Now, before we go any further, the next slide is basically trying to talk about how you need to have your portfolio that is what? Well diversified. Okay, remember, there's always this famous saying that said you don't put all eggs in what? In one basket, because if that basket as a whole, it means you have lost everything. This concept of portfolio diversification is just the term that uses portfolio diversification. All we are saying is spread your risk. Okay? Now, I've given here a little bit of an example of how a diversified portfolio might look, not can look or should look. I'm saying might look, because each one's portfolio will be different. Okay? Now, I'm just going through this and try to see. So it could be like, so this particular portfolio is being measured out of 100%. And then I've chosen where they have 10 different components in one portfolio. The component number one, which is accounting for 20%, is employment. So this particular person, from what is making every month, the money that comes from his employer or from his business, so employer stroke business, employment stroke business, is accounting only for 20%. So what we are saying is 80% of, if in the month is making 1,000, it means from his job, how much is coming from his job? What's 20% of 1,000? Mathematicians. Eh? We don't have. What is 10% of 1,000? What's the tithe if you earn 1,000? 200 kwacha. Yes, it's very easy. So what we're saying is, if you're earning 1,000, the total what is coming in your basket in the end of the month is 1,000. Then your employment is only contributing 200,000. Well, that's a very good portfolio, right? Because if your employment is cut, you still have what? 80%. Then, but this one also has another asset stream, and this one is real estate. It has a slide on its own real estate, so don't mind it very much. He has real estate, and his real estate is also giving him 20%. So there's another 200 from work, 200 from real estate. So if he's lost his job and he has lost his real estate, which is not possible, lost his real estate, the other asset streams that remaining, they're still giving what? 60%, which is 600. This person is sitting pretty much comfortable, right? But in addition to that, maybe that person has some skills of some kind. Maybe he's like Dr. Mwetwai, here he's a doctor, he's doing some consultancy, okay? Or his brother Kaluba here, very good in IT. You want to consultancy on IT, he gives you, let's say he's getting another 5% from that, okay? And then, that's a lot of money, right? 5% it will be 50,000, 50 kwacha. Is it 50,000 or 50 kwacha from our exam? 50 kwacha, right? 50 kwacha. And then this person also has invested in government securities, either treasury bills or government bonds, is getting another 20%, 200 kwacha. It does not only stop there. This person is also putting to my bank deposits, whether into my fixed deposit. There's a slide, by the way, on the government security. So each of these things, the bar here, have a slide. So I've put it deliberately because these are the slides I'm going to talk about. Okay? So maybe this person is also having to my bank deposit, is getting another 5%. It could also be exposed to mutual funds, getting another 5%. Or maybe this person now is industrious, is like my good elder, Sievu, very active on agriculture, Elder Momba. He has all those farms with avocado and everything. Is making another 10% from that. Or the person could be industrious. Is running a shop in Kabwata market or what. He's also doing some retail there, getting 5%. Maybe you could also still have some Yangos, Ulendo on the road making another 5%. And maybe other miscellaneous things you are making another 5%. Or what you are saying is, if you look at this portfolio, it is diversified. The revenue streams are not coming from one end. This is the ideal that is recommended mostly. We're not saying you're going to have 10. I'm not saying this, and I don't want to be on record. But Mupango is saying you should have 10 revenue streams. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, don't over-rely on what? On one revenue stream, or two revenue streams, or three revenue streams. At least try to diversify. How you diversify it is to look within what you can do. Remember what we said, the Moses concept. So when Moses was told, no, you go and lead the children of Israel, he refused, right? He gave a lot of reasons that were valid. Some of them, he says, one, me, what, I stammer. Me, I killed a person. That side there, I'm actually fugitive. I'm a murderer fugitive there. Now me, no one will listen to me. You know, he gave all those. Okay? And what did God ask him? There was just one thing. Okay, after now he's convinced to go. There's just one thing which God asked him. Because he said, okay, look, now God, you're saying I should go there. How will people take me serious, honestly? Who takes an ex-con serious when they come to convince you? Then God, there's something which God told him. What did he say? What do you have in your hands? Here. What you have in your hands. It's the same thing when it comes to investment. It's about what you have in your hands. Sometimes we have things in our hands and we don't realize we have them. You have so many plots dotted around everywhere in the country that are not even giving you anything. And you're saying, me, I don't have the cash flow. What Odamomba was talking about. There's no cash flow. I just have capital gains. I've been told every year that my plots are growing by this percentage. You're sitting on intrinsic value. But your hands are holding on to those things. Why don't you monetize one of them? So that you create another investment opportunity. I'm just giving that as an example. I'm not saying after this, please go and sell your plots. That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is, you could have things that you're holding on to just for sentiment. Actually, we talked about last week. You hold on to toxic. You remember when we were talking about holding on to toxic asset for sentimental reasons, when you know you can easily cash them out there in the market. That's what we talked about last week, okay? So that's what I'm saying. Look, there's always, God will not put you in a zero-sum game. There's always something that God, we read it when we studied the thing, okay? We said that every time and chance happens to who? Everyone there's something. If you look down on it, yes, maybe remove the asset. Don't look into assets. Maybe look into your talent. Look into your natural abilities. There are people that have identified their natural ability and monetized it. So there's always something that you can do that can generate money for you. Sometimes you probably just need to go and consult somebody. Look, me, I consider myself a vagabond. Oh, not a vagabond, that's a strong term. I consider myself to not have anything. Can you evaluate me? Is there something you think I can do? Someone say, but you. You know that when I look at you, the type of perseverance that you have, you can do this and this. Me, yes, you can do it. Let's try it. We don't want to try out new things. Naturally, we are comfortable, especially the youths. They know that dad is going to send money at the end of the month. So I don't want to try anything new. I gave an example last week about, my daughter naturally, she can plait any hair naturally. Okay? She can do those manicure, pedicure, what do you call those stuff? She can do them. And she does them for free for her friends in her class. And me, I always get and say, but why don't you monetize it? Because me, I send you money when you want to do yours. So, but you're doing for other people free. Maybe she's making money, not just declaring, because she knows that will reduce on the allocation if she declares that actually I'm getting something. Well, that's also a possibility. But what I'm saying is this. There will always be something that you can do. There will always be something and usually if that which you can do is your passion, it also makes your work much easier. So this is about what we're talking about, portfolio diversification. Just think broadly. If you're married, sit with your spouse. Have those candid discussions. Okay, honey, what do we think we can do differently from what we have? You are working, I'm working, or one is working, the other is not working. Whichever way, because homes are dynamic. They're different. You cannot have the same thing. Remember what we said? There's no one size fits all type of arrangement when we talk about these things. Everything you do should be that which is unique and particular for you. So have that closet cabinet meeting at home and say, okay, what really can we do which can bring us more money? And you'll be shocked, especially you husbands, you'll be shocked at ideas which your wives would have that probably it never even crossed your mind. You should just say, but have you ever tried this? Okay? Conversely, you can also say, look, I've been thinking. There is this which you can do. Try and find a common source. The whole idea we're talking about here is to have a portfolio or to have your assets, whatever, well diversified. Okay? It may not be to the percentages we have put here, but what I always say is, what is coming from your mainstream revenue, which most of us is the job, right? If you can reach a mix where it's not accounting for more than 40%, then you are okay. Because all you are saying is if your business goes under or you lose your job, you still have 60% to survive on. Okay, so that would be very good. But now let's look at this slide for Sister Alwampa. Now, this side is, because the question which I get most of the time is, but how do I invest when I don't have money of my own? And the definition of not having money is money sitting in your bank account as your own money. That's the biggest question which we get most of the time. Said, I don't have money. Now, this is one of the cases where we say debt is also what? Good. Remember, last week we said it's not everything about debt that is bad. Debt is good. So now, this situation, Sister Alwampa, is a simple one. So, we are assuming you have access to money. This money could either be through a bank loan, or this money could either be, let's take a very simple approach. Maybe you are working for an organization. Most organizations, they have some form of loan system internally. You know that, right? Even in the government, in that particular department, they will have a sort of like a scheme where you can get money. Okay? And let's not pretend. We get that money and we chew it. Okay? When we get that money, it's not free money. We pay it. So let's run with this example. I'm working for that particular ministry or for that particular company, and they allow me to access 100,000. And the terms of that particular institution is that 100,000 should be paid within 5 years, right? So where I'm getting from the institution, Ninkongoleyo, that's my debt, right? That's my debt. If it's a good institution, they say you are paying it back without interest. We just deduct until the 100,000 is returned, okay? It's very rare to find that. Maybe they might put a small percentage. They say you return it at, I'm running with an example, we are returning it at what? At 15%. So let's work out the numbers and see. So we're saying, most of the time, the default thing will be, me, I don't want debt, so I won't get it. Okay? Or you're saying, I'll just blow it, I have a problem. So if you take that approach, no, I don't want Congolese. There are people who say, I don't want debt, I will not take it. But now let's assume you say, I want to take it and see how that debt can work for you. So you've taken that 100,000, and they tell you should pay it after 5 years at 15%. So meaning in total, you're going to pay how much? 115,000 in what? In 5 years. Now, it means now, if assuming just straight line, there's no compounding here, just straight line interest, 115,000 kwacha, you divide by 5 years, which is 60 months. It means every month you'll be paying how much? 1,915. I've done the calculation for you there, right? I don't want to lose anyone. This is an elementary example. Let's move together. I've gotten 100,000. I have to pay it within 5 years at 15%. The total will be 115,000. And I'm paying equally every month up to that time. 1,912 is what I'm paying my institution. And the loan will come to zero at exactly how many years? 5 years. So this is your debt. So the question you're asking yourself, okay, if I get this debt, where can I invest this money such that I'll have sufficient money to pay back for that loan, and I'll be able maybe to do other things? So I've chosen, I said, okay, maybe choose an asset class. I've chosen your asset class where you're going to invest that money as in bonds, okay? And I've chosen for you, there are so many examples, I'm just running with this an example. I've chosen for you, you've chosen, okay, that 100,000 in that Tenga Kunshito, I'm going to buy 15 years government bonds. Okay? There's a slide on bonds, so don't worry about bonds. We'll talk about it. This is now, I'm just giving what I'm calling an arbitrage opportunity. An opportunity to borrow and lend at the same time remain with what? With money. So if you say you're going to invest it in 15-year bonds, currently, as at last auction 2 weeks ago, the rate on the 15-year, the coupon rate on the 15-year bond was 28.5%. 28.5%. That was the coupon rate, okay? So what we're saying is, if it's 28.5%, that coupon is paid every 6 months. But we know that in a year, on 100,000, 28.5% gives you how much? 285,000 kwacha in a year. If we say, okay, what is the implied monthly money I'm getting? So you just divide that 285,000 by what? by 12. So it shows you that every month you're making how much? 2,000. Are those too small for people to read? You can read those, eh? So you're making 2,375. So now we're comparing two sides. On one side, you're paying your institution 1,912. On the other side, you're making 2,375. Are you losing money or you're making money? You're making money. The money is looking small, right? 400 kwacha. It's not small anymore, right? You're making 400 kwacha over and above the money that you're going. But let's look at it this way. So it means when you reach the 4 years mark, the 5 years mark, what will happen to your loan when you reach 5 years? The loan is finished. What happens when you reach the 500 mark on your bond? Is it finished? It's not finished, right? It's running for how long? So you have your Nkongole, your debt has finished at 5 years. Your assets at 5 years March point, it still has how much years to go? 10 years to go. So you have no Nkongole to your institution at 5 years, but you have an asset that is going to give you a cash flow for the next 10 years. Now, is it a wise decision you have made or it's not a wise decision? Be the judge. So what we're saying is actually if you drill into these figures closely, what you are making from the asset is slightly more than what you are paying on your debt. Remember, Elder Mwaba calculated 400, right? You have that 500. So if you look at how long has it taken you to get what they call the return on investment. I'm trying to avoid using those terms because sometimes they just confuse people. How long has it taken you for you to fully pay back the capital that you borrowed from your employers? You'll find that it's not actually 5 years. Assuming you're not eating that extra 400 kwacha. Because you might as well make a decision and say, okay, look, if what I'm paying is 1,950 and what I'm earning this side is 2,340, I want this in Congole also to finish what? Faster. You probably go and tell your employers, no, I know you said I should be paying you 1,950. What if I push up my repayment to 2,375? Because all you want is, you don't want to be in a worse-off situation. So you want to have left hand, right hand pocket arrangement where whatever I'm paying out this and whatever I'm making this one is canceling out each other. So what will happen now, essentially, because of that decision that you have made, you find that your loan will not finish at 5 years. Your loan will finish at what? At 4 years. Because you have cut out some of the interest into it. So you would have created what we were talking about, Sister Lwampa, last week. Said, look, you have created a situation where you are using borrowed money to make money. At the same time, it's not impacting you or your cash flows in any way that is negative. So what we're saying here is, and people don't tell you these things are free. I know people want to charge for information, but information should be given freely. You know, your situation will have the opportunity to be there. I struggle to find a company that will not have some form of credit incentives for their employers. There are very few that are not there. Most of them, when you look inward, you find that there will be something. Maybe it will be 12 months or 2 years, but there will be some form of money you can access. And sometimes we access it without having a plan on our mind. So when we get it easily, we blow it. So what happens, you just have your pay slip painted, but can you point where your money went? Nothing. You don't know. Or if you can point where it went, it's sitting in an idle asset. An asset that is actually even costing you more money now for maintenance and other things. That's why. So look, if you got your plan very well from the inception of how you want to use that money, and you use that second layer on that investment triangle where we said you need to be disciplined. You know, discipline is a key thing. And I'm glad Sister Colin last week talked about it. She actually walked us in practical ways of how you can be disciplined with your money. You remember those who are there. If you're not there, you watch the thing. It's there on Kabwata Church. The thing is, the key thing here is discipline and you being able to consult people that can help you. Men have this problem. As men, we have this problem. We don't want to consult. We take consultation as a sign of weakness. If I go to Brother Kaluba and say, Brother Kaluba, I think you are very good in this aspect. Can you help me how I can be better at that? I will not go. But women, to give them credit, they do slightly better on that. Slightly better on that. They would go to this, but no, what? My friend, vishitika, things on your side. How can you help? And they would tell, oh, this is what I'm doing. You know what? Here we buy here. You know, where you're buying these things is very expensive. Let me show you. Come with me this day. Let me take you. Here you find the things you are buying this side. This is the price. So, oh, okay. So they have that approach of sharing information. As men, I don't know. We treat each other as competitors. Competition finished at secondary school. I always say that that's where it finished. When you move out from grade 12, competition is finished. In the society, there is no competition. We just have to complement each other. This is the argument I always make to some people. I said, you know, sometimes you're a supervisor in a company. Okay, I need to be reminded of the time. You're a supervisor, print time. You're a supervisor in a company. Sometimes I have this argument. Okay, you may agree, you may not disagree. You may disagree with me. Sometimes you're thinking, if I increase the salary of this guy, okay, how do I put it? I want to put it in a nice way whereby no one will feel bad about it. Okay, let's put it this way. Okay, let me summarize it this way. Sometimes we are bad supervisors because you are thinking, if I help out this subordinate of mine get a better salary, he will be doing, will be living slightly better than me or will be coming closer to me. But that's a wrong way of thinking. Most of the institutions, the way they are is, your salary and the salary of your supervisor are determined by somebody outside you. The very fact that your subordinate is going to get an increment does not mean your salary will go down. Chances are that actually because you've pushed your supervisor up there, your subordinate salary up there, you actually have a case to go to your boss and say, look, my boy has come up the cave. Why am I still here? So I also need what? To be pushed up there, okay? But the default mind sometimes of most supervisors, no. Keep this guy low here. But what detriment is it to you if somebody is also getting a better salary? You're not losing anything. People who are deciding are up there. Even if that person is getting the same as you are, is it reducing your money? It's not reducing your money. So what is your problem when it comes to try and help somebody else also to come up the cave? I was digressing. The point I was trying to make here is the issue of consultations among men. Let's consult it. Let's work together, okay? Have common, there was a slide when we talk about debt or managing debt where I was saying, explore syndication approaches in certain things. There's certain things that you cannot do it on your own because maybe your capital base may not manage to do that thing. But there could be somebody there who is sitting on idle money. They don't even know how to use that money. They said, look, can't we put our funds together and create a block of flats here? And then we'll be sharing. We can even say we're sharing 5 units are yours, 5 units are mine. Because I know if I put my money only, we cannot do 10 units. I cannot do 5. I can only do a few units that will be incomplete for a long time. Okay, so the point we're trying to make there is let's leverage on each other's strength and try to help one another. Okay, the issue for competition, forget it, it ended at grade 12. This slide is okay, Sister Lwampa? You're cool with it? Or you have further questions on this one? Maybe you can reserve you can. But this one was just trying to address that issue you're talking about there. So look, the default position is I should not get debt. And my argument was you can get debt and work debt to make money for you. Yeah, so not all debt is bad. So we can now go into a song. I drink water. Okay, that's good.
I think the speaker can drink water. This time we'll have a song. Before they come, we need to have individual prayers just for 2 minutes. Just after the prayers, then the GT will come and give us a song. Then our presenter will continue. So we are praying for the economy. even to ourselves. Even for these lessons we are learning here, that will help us, even help our neighbors. We can evangelize even through these lessons also to be to our neighbors. So this time, it's time for prayers. Can just pray. We'll kneel down, an individual to pray. After that, and then the GT will come and give us a song.
Our gracious and loving Father in heaven, we want to thank you, Heavenly Father, for this opportune time you have given unto us to learn. We realize that we are living in difficult times, but we know, Heavenly Father, that you are there to provide unto us all the resources that we need and much more, that which you gave to Adam and Eve before there was school, the capacity to think. We therefore pray, Heavenly Father, that we may treasure this asset. We want also to pray, Heavenly Father, in times like these ones, even when the children of darkness are doing better than these who are in the light. My prayer is that, loving Father, you may be the one who is going to give us the unfading passion to do that which we can do, so that, loving Father, your name may be glorified. We want to pray, Heavenly Father, that this knowledge which has come unto us, it may be able to bear fruits, so that this church may prosper, and that, Lord, your name may not be insulted, even by the heathen, through our performances. It is my prayer now, loving Father, that you may heal our land, that once again it can be able to produce more. We pray even for the rains, loving Father, that they may be able to fall, that in your own way, Heavenly Father, you who provides cisterns, even from underneath, that we may have sufficient water that we need, so that the economy may be able to grow. May you bless each and every family represented here, and may you continue, loving Father, giving us a direction, even as a church, so that we may not be able to wonder, that, loving Father, at the end of it all, every one of us, we may be able to give a testimony that indeed at the time I needed to do whatever I planned, you came through my way, and indeed I prospered. Thank you, Lord, for listening to our prayer, because we pray and ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
GT. Investment. Even to we can plant to veggie behind on the backyard. That is also investment. Tasungoka 10 kwacha, instead of buying my veg, it will help us. It's your time.
upon the cross, my pardon bought. Yes, his own blood was shed for me, that at his death I might be free. Christ died for me, oh precious thought, upon the cross, my pardon's bought. Yes, his own blood was shed for me, that at his death I might be free.
He died for me.
He died for me.
He died for me.
He died for me. Oh, praise his name. He set me free. He set me free. I'll sing a song. I'll sing a song. While ages roll. While ages roll. Christ Jesus died to save my soul. The angels struck their harps of gold through heaven's court. Let it be taught that Jesus died on Calvary's cross for sinners lost, for even me. The angels struck their harps of gold through heaven's court. Let it be taught that Jesus died on Calvary's cross for sinners lost, for even me.
He died for me.
He died for me.
He died for you.
He died for you. Oh, praise his name. He set me free. He set me free. I'll sing a song. I'll sing a song. While ages roll. While ages roll. Christ Jesus died to save my soul.
He died for me.
He died for me.
He died for you.
He died for you. Oh, praise his name. He set me free. He set me free. I'll sing a song. I'll sing a song. While ages roll. While ages roll. Christ Jesus died to save my soul.
Thank you very much. There is a proper buzz, natural buzz. So we can also import buzz here.
Thank you so much, GT, for that song. So maybe perhaps before I leave this slide, this arbitrage can also be created not necessarily from your maybe working institution. also, like if you're a student and you know that your parents are in a situation where they can give you some money, why not trouble them a little bit so that you get money from them, and you have to prove anyway, you have to earn it, you have to prove that you can be able to repay it as per plan, and explore an investment like this one. And also, you can flip the coin, even as parents. We need to start teaching our children financial education very early. I'm glad in school they do it much early, but you can be the first one to take the step. Say, look, I have this money, this loose money. It doesn't necessarily have to be 100,000 we're talking about. Let's see. Sometimes you test your children, right? You start small, you test them. If I give you this, what can you do? In your mind, you know that there's an avenue they can spend money. So say, look, have you ever thought about this thing? If I give you this money, how do you invest? This is one of the things they can consider, and I think it will help them a lot. Now, since we already talked about bonds, we might as well just zero in into them so that we can now try and see what you can make. Now, look, the investment spectrum is very big. There are a lot of things you can do, but there are also what we call the low-hanging fruits, okay? They are what we call the low-hanging fruits. There are certain things that you don't really need to struggle to invest in. They are passive in nature. As we said at the beginning, you're not wasting any time. The risk is what we call, it's risk-free, and bonds is one of them. So government securities, when we talk about government securities, essentially what we are saying is you are lending money to your government so that the government can spend the money to service you. Now, when you're lending it, you can either lend it on a short-term basis or you can lend it on a long-term basis. So let's just look at the distinguishing factors between the two. So the government bonds, we're saying they are issued by the government on what is called at par. Now, this is the new arrangement. Previously, the government bonds in Zambia, they were issued at a discount. So discount, I don't want to go into to complicate you, but just know that when it's issued at discount, it's in such a way that if you, let's say you put 500 as your cost, what you get at the end, maybe for instance is 600, it means that's grown by 100,000, that's a capital gain. So it means the instrument was issued to you what? At a discount, okay? Now that's the old way in which the central bank was issuing that. They have stopped now. Although we still have bonds in the market that were issued a long time ago and they're being traded at a discount. But the new way of doing things now, all the bonds that are issued by the government are issued what were at par. So meaning if I put 100,000, now I'll get 100,000 again on maturity. What's the difference? The difference is that they'll be paying you what they are calling a coupon. So the coupon is going to be, previously the coupon payment under discount was split between two. There was part of the coupon which would be paid every 6 months, and part of the coupon was paid at the end of investment as a capital gain. Let me break it down nicely for you. Let's assume you bought a 2 years bond under the old discount bonds. Let's say they told you the rate is 21%. Of that 21%, they'll probably tell you that the coupon is 9%. Okay? So what that means is every 6 months, they'll be paying you 9% of your face value. What happens to the other 11% or 12%? That one will be given to you at the end as a what? As a capital gain. That was how it was operating in the past. The calculation was a little bit more complex, but this one now is simple and straightforward. The new arrangement is that we give you a bond. The bond is paid at par. Par means the same. What you have put in and what you get at maturity is what? Is the same. But to compensate you, because you say, but why should I give you the money? I get the same money then. To compensate you, the coupon or the interest will be paying you every 6 months is what? It's big. So at the end of the day, you can make a decision which one is better for you. To get smaller interest now and the big money at the end, or to be getting much more interest every 6 months for the rest of the tenure. Okay? The debate as to whether which one is better, par or discount, is neither here nor there. At the end of the day, some of us who interrogate the numbers, we realize that actually probably it's almost the same. The biggest notable difference is that in the par arrangement, you can smoothen out your interests. So you get what we call it's front-loaded. So you get your coupons, your money much earlier. Okay? You know that company you're getting at the end, the capital gain, now it's spread within the what? The coupon. So you're getting money much earlier, and it gives you an opportunity for you to reinvest the money. Because if money is coming much earlier, you can also reinvest, and it's compounded. That's the concept of compounding. So it gives you actually a more advantage, if you ask me, for you to be getting them at par. So I spend more time on that. So what we're saying, the issue at par, they are long-term in nature, the government bonds. Currently, we have the 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and 15 years. So it caters for all your spectrum. And we always say these are risk-free. You can invest in a bond and sleep peacefully. I know somebody will try to argue that it's not risk-free per se. What if there are issues with the government, like what happened in Ghana, where because of the debt was growth so much, the lenders of the money, they said you have to restructure the local debts. So all of a sudden, all those who are sitting on the local paper, they had to freeze their coupons and what. That's an extreme situation, right? Let's suffice to say in Zambia, the debt restructuring does not touch the local debt. It just touches what? The external debt. So if you're invested in a coupon, it's risk-free. However, I always argue, even if it was not risk-free, let's look at it this way. Assuming something happens to the government, what makes you think your investment in other class of assets is going to be safe? If the government goes down, everything goes down, right? Everything goes down. So whichever way you want to look at it, this is the what? Low-hanging fruits. You're giving money to the government, they're paying you, you know that they will always pay. There's no history there's no record or incident in the history of this country of the government failing to pay on their local debt. It's not there. Okay, let me talk on the bond. Somebody's going to challenge me that me, I'm a supplier to the government, they have not paid me. I'm not talking about supplies. I'm talking about bond instruments. There is no history currently that the government has failed to pay. So it's risk-free. We're saying it's an accepted collateral. Why accepted collateral? It means when you want to get a facility or a loan from a bank and you're sitting on a bond, they're going to give you money, right? And take your bond as what? As security, what we call the repo. We can use it as a repo transaction. And what we're saying also is tradable in the secondary market. If you've bought a bond and then you realize 2-3 years down the line that you actually need cash, you can go to the bank and say, I'm selling you this bond, give me cash. They can do what they call a redemption. So the bank buys that from you and they give you cash, okay? The price, of course, will be determined by the market that particular time. But what we're saying is it offers you some level of flexibility. You can trade it. So you know it's cash. Let's put it this way. A bond is cash, okay? You can translate it into cash at any particular time. What about the treasury bills? The treasury bills on the other side, these are short-term. They are short-term. These are still being issued at a discount, by the way. So they're still being issued they're not par. So what if you put, let's say, 100,000 kwacha, maybe the face value is 110. I'm just giving it as a crude amount, not that it's the exact thing. So these are still issued at a discount. They are money market instrument. A money market instrument, by definition, an instrument that is within 1 year, that don't go beyond 1 year. The 10 years or the investment period is 91 days, which is 3 months. 182 days, that's 6 months. 273, ignore the 6. It's supposed to be 273 days there, which is 9 months, and the last one is 1 year, 264 days. So you can buy. So there are others who might say, look, I just want to invest for short term. I don't want a bond which is long term. I don't want to go into complexity of trying to sell it after 1 year or what. I just want short term money. Then you can buy a treasury bill. It's also risk-free. We have talked about it. It's also acceptable collateral. Most banks will do it. And it's also traded on the secondary market. Although I must say, selling a treasury bill is not easy. They are not very liquid on the market. So you probably have to wait until it matures. But since it's a short term, at least you can sit it out, right? You can wait for 6 months. You can just go to your bank and say, give me an overdraft for this period, hold this security. You wait for it to mature. So how do you go about doing this? The good thing about either the bond or T-bills market is that there are no minimum amounts. You can invest whatever amount you can manage. And now the process for buying this, the central bank has made things very easy. You know, Kudala, you have to go to the bank tells you, can you write a letter that you want to buy bonds or bills? When that letter comes, somebody stamps. If somebody forgets to present to Bank of Zambia, you lose out on the auction. You know, the process was very long, and then they will tell you there's a charge for you to invest in this. You know those things. That process now is a cake. Let's say it's not there anymore. The process is very easy and straightforward. Now you don't need your bank to buy your treasury bills or to buy your bonds. You do it from the comfort of your house. All you need is to just have access to the internet. So how does it work? It's very simple and straightforward. I'm taking a little bit of time talking about this. I'm speaking with a bit of a passion on this because it pains me to see how people leave free money on the table. Okay? This knowledge has to be shared so that you people can make money. Investing in a bond or T-bill is very easy. All you need to do, one, you should have an account that is with any commercial bank. Okay? That goes without saying, right? You should have an account. Two, all you need to have is what is called a CSD account. CSD. Eh? What does it stand for? CSD? Central Security Depository Account. CSD account. This CSD account, you open it at Bank of Zambia. For you, what is required for you to open this CSD account? You just need your NRC and your bank account number. So you can either physically go to Bank of Zambia and say, this is my NRC, this is my bank account. Can you open a CSD account? They open it for you within seconds. Or you don't want to go, now you can do it online. If you go to the Bank of Zambia page, there's a link there. It's called the Investor Portal. So you go to the Investor Portal there, you download your details. Within minutes, your account is what? Is opened. So once you have your CSD account, what will be happening is this. You know, treasury bills are sold every 2 weeks. They are fortnightly. So they'll skip a week. After a week, it will come. So the week when there's an auction, you just go on the portal. If the auction is, usually the treasury bills auction is on Thursday, the portal opens for you on Tuesday. So you have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Surely, can you miss the deadline? You just go in the portal there, you put the amount you want to invest. It will tell you. You put the rate which you want. It's a step-by-step process to guide you. It's nothing difficult. If you have any chance, just speak to any people who work in the bank or anybody. You don't even need somebody, because on the portal, there's also a guideline. You just go and invest. Once you invest, you click invest. An instruction is sent to the central bank that you want to buy treasury bills or bonds. And once you are successful, they confirm with you they are successful, and the instruction is sent to your bank to debit your account and send money to the central bank. Simple. The bank is not involved. The only involvement of the bank is they get notification from the portal that this customer has invested, and then they debit your account. This process is all seamless. It's a simple process. It's better than the manual paperwork process that was there before. Was that was a bit cumbersome, right? And if you find a bank staff with an attitude there, you sit in the bank lobby for the whole day, and your paper is not processed. Now it's simple, straightforward. Just go to the portal, open your CSD account, and then when you want to buy, if it's a bond, it's once every month, by the way. For the bonds, it's once every month. When the week comes, it's usually the last or second last week of the month. Go, buy your bond. You don't have to suffer. So this is very easy. A lot of people are making money because, look, I showed you an example of a 20-year or 15-year-old bond, 28.5%. Is that simple money to make? I mean, is that a low rate? By all means, that's a lot of money. Because even if you're running a business, for you to make profits over 28%, you really have to have worked very hard. Okay? Now, this is where your money is just seated, you're not doing anything. Okay? So, we'll walk into a computation in my next slide. I'll give 2 examples where we walk through calculations for all the tenors from 2 years all the way up to 15 years. We see how much money you are making. And we're going to be using very simple examples for ease of calculation. We use example 1, we use 100,000, and example 2, we use 1 million kwacha. We see how money can grow currently if you invest in any of those 2. Okay? I'm deliberately using these so that I appeal to both spectrums, those who want to invest small amount. By the way, it does not mean it's 100,000. You can do 10,000. Okay? It's just for easy of understanding and calculations. Okay? So now let's look at how it works in Okay, I'm just being reminded that in case maybe so far from where we have gone, you have a question, maybe you can ask in case you forget by the time we are getting to the end. Anybody with you can just walk in front. You don't need to lift your hand. Just come in front, and then you can come and ask your question. So there are two ways I interpret this thing. If people don't come in front, it's either you have confused them, they're just waiting for you to finish and go, or it's either people understanding is straightforward. Yeah? We just continue? Okay, okay. There's one question here. Elder Chintu.
Yes, good afternoon, Elder. Thank you so much for the presentation. My question is simply on the value of money when or the investment. So using the example of the transaction that you gave for investing in bonds, for instance, you invest 100,000. Yes. My question is the fair value of money, looking at the time and the way the economy is, the dollar fluctuations. How do you counter that? Knowing, especially you've mentioned that now the government has even changed. They are basically paying you more like interest on the coupon as opposed to you getting it at the end. So how do you defeat that imbalance or the expectation that if I invest 100,000 today, next year or 5 years from now, that 100,000 may not have the same value and may depreciate? How do we counter that?
It's a very good question, right? So inflationary, how do you get around issues of inflation? Now, let me say that inflationary pressures hit every asset class. Okay? So for starters, it doesn't matter where you have invested your money. Inflation always catches up with you everywhere. Okay? So the only question is which particular asset class cushions you more from inflation than the other. So this is where I said you need to have.
Sorry for disturbing. Maybe there's someone who has picked the keys, car keys, and wire the key for the house. Please, you can help us. Someone is stranded. Thank you.
Okay. So what I was saying is, this. I agree with you 100%. This time value of money, 100,000 today is not the same as 100,000 in 5 years' time. That's why the good thing about this thing is there's a liability and an asset at the same time. In this particular situation, you have done what we call asset matching. You don't have any exposure, okay? What you are paying, actually let me start from there. What you are paying on your loan is fixed, okay? Irrespective of what will happen to inflation. The same thing, what you're earning this side is fixed irrespective of what happened to inflation. So your margins are actually fixed for the whole entire duration of your arbitrage. Okay? Your question is, yes, I've fixed my cost, I've fixed my income. But however, the difference between my cost and my income is my profit is going to be subjected to what? To inflation. The question I would ask you is, what would happen if you didn't invest? If you just kept this money on your account, what would happen? Are you going to be cushioned? If anything, that's a bigger catastrophe. So by taking this decision, actually what you have done is you have minimized your loss, your impact of inflation. Okay? So what do you need to look out for? What you need to look out for each time you invest, you are looking for an investment that is going to give you a return that is above inflation. Current, what's inflation? 15 point what? Okay. It's in the 15s, right? 15.5, 15.7. So, if you're going to do an investment that is yielding you lower than inflation, then you are what? Underwater. And that underwater, I'm also using it loosely, because it may not necessarily be underwater. But if we're using inflation as a benchmark, we're just saying, any investment that is going to give you a return, whether it's a bond, it's a bill, it's a fixed deposit, or it's real estate, it's a mutual funds, it's equity, whatever investment that is going to be giving you a return that is lower than 15%, it means it's underwater. So that's your benchmark. So you're going to choose the best of the available options. If all the options you have, they're at 15%, then you get the best of the West. Because the real thing is, the reality is what is being offered on the table. And this is where now the temptation of what we talked about last week comes in. There you're going to find now a fund out there. They're going to tell you we can grow your money and give you 50%. Now you are thinking like the way David is thinking, inflation is at 15%. The only available sound investment is at 20%. There's not 5% margin. So what if inflation goes to 20? So it means I'm breaking even. I'm better off to go and put in that scheme that is promising me 50%. But remember what we talked about last week. Chances are that actually you're going to lose what? The whole entire capital. That scheme could be a Ponzi scheme, it could be a pyramid scheme, or it could be something that is not well regulated. So at the end of the day, you are safer in the mainstream investments. Okay, I don't know whether that answers your question. Thank you so much. Now, allow me to, there's another hand here. Our mother has a question this side. Now, Mother Nyemba, you have to come in front. It's not good to make your mother come up, right? But this one has to come. This one always fights with my wife. I don't know what they fight about, but they are always fighting. So I can make her come in front.
I've got a question on tithe.
On tithe?
Let me say, I get an investment of 10,000 from an institution. Then I'm taught to pay a 2,000 on top. That's a 12,000. Then at what point should I do the tithing from the money? Is it from the 10,000 which I've borrowed first, or from the money together with the interest to return tithe?
Thank you so much. Now, Mom Nyemba is talking about tithe. We're not talking about tithe today. But we'll answer her nevertheless. So, the principle in tithing is that you tithe out of the what? The increase. Now, the Bible is very, the writers of the Bible, let's just say God is wise. He gave instructions in generic what? Terms. He says you tithe on the increase. So the question is, what is your increase? If you answer what, I will not answer your increase for you. You are the one who is the businessman. You are the one that has invested. You are the one who knows what your cost is. And you are the one who knows what your profit is. So me, I will end it there. You are going to give on your what? On your increase. That's what the Bible gives you. Okay? I have a slide here. You're tempting me to open that slide on systematic benevolence, which is a study I was presenting at my church. Maybe some point, maybe later on in the future. You can come and present that one. Because that one holistically looks at the whole issue of tithes and offering. Okay? How is it supposed to be implemented? And there is one slide. And this question you have given is a very popular question. All the time you get it at the end. So how do I tithe? Is it my gross? Is it my net? So there will be those slides that we can talk about. I don't want to be entangled into that one for now. Me, I've come here for investment, not for tithe. So let's go into the next slide. Are we together? We are cool? We're okay? We're not tired? We're okay? Okay. So the next slide now, we're just trying to, in practical terms, to show you, since we're already talking about bonds, hey, now this question is long. And we're going to read all this paper. Interesting one. I'll give somebody to read this one. We'll give David. David, you read this question for us. My sight is not very good, and the writing, I don't think I can read it nicely. Let's just allow David to read it.
Okay, so the question says, the problem of black tax is killing us. The problem is especially men. They create a perception of having two other family members. So their family members, even when they can manage, they will ask. Even when they can manage or sell from what they have, that is, for example, chickens, goats, and our men, even when they don't have, they can't tell the truth.
So you know it's a woman that has written. Okay.
Yes, this is coming from.
Continue.
The second one here, I think the first one was a comment. The second one also says, also a lot of laziness, not going an extra mile in working. Let us learn also to balance church and work. More time spent on church.
But that's the wife to the elder,
Yes.
right?
More time spent on church activities, having no time to work, forgetting that even the church needs resources also. There should be a balance between working and church activities with exception of the Sabbath.
No, thank you very much. The good thing about that is it's not really a question, right? It's counsel. And I've just hit that slide. We dealt with that last week, right? Those of you were there. So just watch that video for last week. We dealt with it. Black tax, yes, it's a real issue. We actually spent a lot of time talking about this thing. We put strategies there how to handle it. The only aspect which I think maybe requires the feedback. Let me have that paper so that no one is tempted to start saying who's handwriting. Let me have it. It's safer with me. Because we have forensic handwriting experts here saying who wrote these husbands, and start checking. It's with me. Okay, so what we're saying is, what was I saying again? Oh, yeah, see, the thing that requires response from this is, and I'm happy that has been brought out, is talking about the corroboration between husbands and wives. If you notice, there's that comment where the person is saying a husband will have two other more people that they are paying for, but probably those people can even manage on their own. And chances are that you actually doing it without disclosure to the other part. So it's a situation where she just stumbles upon a situation where you are actually supporting people and she's not She's not aware. Now that one is a serious one. Now, you people who are married, husband and wife, I always say, and I'll repeat it, if you want to run investments individually, you will still make money and make some profit. But if you run investments together, you actually make more money. So I'm not here to tell you that you cannot run separately if that model works for you. What I'm here to tell you is that concerted efforts always gives the best results. Because at that particular point, everything is laid bare. Okay? So I don't want to be tempted to go into a family life presentation here. But the more you put things on the table, you will know your limitations at a particular time. If I say to my wife, this, I cannot do it, it won't fly. She has full visibility of the cash flows. She'll be able to agree with me. And you know what you're saying is true. But if I'm running some investments privately there and I tell her, no, we cannot do, maybe she even saw it. She just didn't tell me. Sometimes you think you are clever, but your partner actually has seen it. So even when they're asking you, it's marketing, they have already seen it on the other side. So they're asking you just to confirm whether you can be honest or not being honest. My stance in this issue is you take an honest approach, you work together, husband and wife, you stand to benefit. By the way, this issue of running secret investments and sometimes it creates a problem in the event that you die. Because the surviving spouse will not even know that you are doing this and that. They get the shock of their life, how much debt you have, because you have not been disclosing that. And when they're doing that probate letter, there they put everything. They put everything on that probate letter. You owe this guy, these are your liabilities. These are assets. Sometimes you find that there are more liabilities than assets, and the family just said that we don't want the probate. They just run away. But the debtors will still come for you. So it's always sound and good, whoever's written, Mama, that you work together with your husband. Declare. Even if you have, okay, I shouldn't say this, but for those who have children outside, declare them. Let them be known, right? But elders will not be in that bracket. We don't do that. So, I was here. I was about to give a practical example of a bond. Now, this one, I don't know how I can expand it. Is it big enough for everyone to see? Okay. If you have a good eyesight, you read there. Here, basically, what I have done, and it's there, as I said, the presentation is with communications, you get it. Here, what I'm trying to do is to show you how the cash flows will look like if you invest 100,000 in bonds. So let's walk through it together. So, it's cutting. Is this the best? This one will be a nightmare for me. Okay, when we are looking at this, we'll concentrate on the side we are looking at. Side by side. So we're on example 1. So the first one is if you invest 100,000, no, that's not good either. I wanted the whole example 1 to appear at a go. Okay, you know what? We'll make good of what we can see. Sharpen your eyes. Okay, so we're saying if you invest 100,000 in a 2-year bond, currently, the coupon rate is at 19%. It means in a year, you're making what? 19,000. If you work that one on a monthly basis, you're making 1,583. At the end of the 2 years, the interest alone is going to be 38,000. 19 times 2, 38,000. So you'll be given 38,000 plus the 100,000 that you invested, and you're going to have 38,000. So what we are saying is your money has grown from 100,000 to 138, and you're making 1,583 every month. Now, this is not small money. It's not small money because think about it this way. What can you do with 100,000? That will be giving you a 1,583 every month. There's no house you can build in 100,000. Okay? If I told you have to build a house in 100,000, that would be a very biggest miracle than walking on water by Moses. So there is no 100,000 is small. But you see in a bond, it's giving you a return of 1,553 every month. Let's look at it if it's 3 years. If it's 3 years, it's giving, you put it in a 3 years bond, it's giving you 1,793 every month. At the end of the 3 years, it has grown from 100,000 to 164,500. That's at the end of the 3 years. Why is this thing running away? Yeah, if you put it in a 5 years, which is, I don't know why this slide is doing this. I've been given this and I'm misbehaving. Okay, if you put it in a 5 year, you find that it's now earning you 1,958 every month, and it grows from 100,000 to 217,500. If you put it in 7 years, you sing, it grows to 275. If you put it in 10 years, it grows to 363,000. And if you put it in 15 years, it grows to 523,000. Why am I showing you this? I want us to do a bit of some computations here, okay? And the computation we're going to use on example number, we use it on example number 2. So on example 1 is on 100,000. I struggle to find an equivalent investment where you can put 100,000 and it gives you those returns. So for comparative purposes, let's use example number 2. So example number 2 is where we are putting in 1 million kwacha. 1 million kwacha. Okay? So if I have 1 million kwacha right now in my account, and I decide to buy treasury bills for government bonds for 2 years, it means at every year I'm making 190,000. In short, every month I'm making 15,833. On an investment of 1 million, every month I'm making 15,800, almost 16,000. On 1 million, that is if I invest in 2 years, the very shortest end of the curve. What happens if I put it in 3 years? It means it grows now. It means every year, because the rate is now 21.5, it means every year I'm making 215, and every month is about 17,900. Just follow me here. I'm trying to make a case for something. If I put it in the 5 years, the same 1 million, we're running with the same amount. It means at the end of, because the rate now is higher, it's 23.5, I'm going to be making 235,000 every year, which translates to a month income of 19,500, almost 20 pin. That's only 5 years. What happens if I put it for 7 years? In 7 years, because the rate has gone to 25%, I'll be earning 250,000 in a year, which if I look at it monthly, I'm earning 20,800, almost 21 pin. What if I put it for 10 years? The rate now goes 26.75. So there, in a year, I'm earning 267,500, which if I compute on monthly basis, I'm earning 22,292. Okay? Now let's look at the last one, which is where we use the computing comparison. If I put it, however, in the 15-year, this is where now I can expand this, Sister Lump. Here now I can expand so that we look at this. If we put, no, I want the one down. If I put it in a 15-year bond, that 1 million kwacha, the rate is 28.5%. So how much am I earning in a year? 285. If I divide that by 12, it means every month I'm earning what? 23,750. By the time I'm reaching 15 years, when you add all the coupons together, it means I've earned how much? 4,275,000 in coupons alone. Remember the 1 million I put is still there? So when they give me that, it means total I've made how much? 5,275,000 kwacha. So a million has grown to what? To 5 million. Now here's the interesting thing. Since I'm getting these payments every 6 months, okay, I have an opportunity to also invest that. Okay? So this 285 I'm getting every year, assuming, look, I don't want to touch this money. I'm creating, when it comes every year, I invest it again. It means now it has also given birth to what? To another bond. That is also giving you income all the time. So this is not small money, okay? It's a lot of money. The question you should ask yourself, this is now where David has to pay attention. So the question which you should ask yourself, this one is for you, is what other investment can I put this 1 million that can be giving me money that are similar to this? If you have 1 million, the default of every Zambian is that I should do what if I have 1 million? I should buy a house. Okay? So let's use that as a comparative. You buy a house in this area here for 1 million. How much rentals are you going to be getting every month for that house? 5,000. So how much? Okay, I want us to work with a bigger figure. 5, right? Okay, depends on the area. Okay, let's agree average 5 for easier comparison. 5,000. So it means in a year, total rentals, how much are you making? 60,000. And we're talking about before any maintenance. We're assuming you have occupants rate of 100%. You have tenants throughout. So let's assume you have tenants throughout. So make 60,000 on a 1 million kwacha. And somebody who bought the bond for the same amount is making how much in a year? 285,000. 60,000, 285,000 on this side. Which one is a better investment for you? I'm just trying to make a point. We'll get to it. No one is saying having a house is a bad thing. And we have a slide on real estate, which is my favorite slide. We'll talk about the importance of why you need to have real estate. The discussion we're making here is arising from his question. It's a comparative. We have inflation at 13%. Okay? I have 2 investments. I can buy a house, 1 million, I get 60,000 every month. I can buy a 15-year-old bond, I get 285 without doing anything, no painting, no what, and it will happen for the next 15 years. I know the argument somebody will give me, but look, the house is going to gain in value, capital gains. Compute capital gains that you're going to make between now and the 15 years on the house. Usually, by the time the house, okay, depending also on where the location is, by the time the house is doing 6-7 years, you probably have to reinvest into that house for you to keep it abreast with the new market trends. The fixtures and fittings would have run down, and you have to reinvest into it. So the argument of saying, but the value of that house will double at that time. Okay, let's say it will double. Using our example, if you're saying in 15 years the value of your house will double, it means to move from 1 million to what? To 2 million. What has been the value of this bond? It was at 1 million. In 15 years, it's showing it's how much? 5.2 million. And this is disregarding the compounding of the coupons that you are reinvesting. I don't know whether you're seeing where I'm heading. This is a no-brainer. These are low-hanging fruits that are there, which you can easily exploit. And even if, let's use the 100,000, we go back to the 100,000. What can you do in 100,000 cash? Those who are in business. So what sort of business and what sort of returns can you be making that can be equivalent to that? Chances are that you really have to be a genius, and also remember, one is active and one is what? Passive. So the root of the bond is that it has actually freed your time to be able to do what? Farming, and actually, this is the way you can do it. If you want, the coupons that are coming is what you can now invest in other active business. So that 285 when it comes in every year, Mr. Kaluba, that's the one which you're going to throw now into the what? Into the other business. Actually, you can use that one to build another, to buy a plot, so that when the next coupon comes, you even do the foundation. Before you realize in 3, 4, 5 years, the bond would have actually built you another house. Okay? So these are some of the low-hanging. I know we don't have a lot of information. That's why we take a bit of some time. You know, there was a time when in church we say we don't talk about these things because it will be seen like Sabbath, you're discrediting the Sabbath. But you see, at the end of the day, the knowledge has to be given. There's nothing wrong. Are we discrediting the Sabbath by just giving you that you can make money like this? We started the presentation from the biblical perspective, and we are going to end on the biblical note as well. So it's the information sometimes which we don't have. There are so many investments out there, and somebody will ask, but how do I do it? Why do I get this money? Last week we talked about the issue of people being obsessed or holding on to non-profiting assets. So if you're in a situation where we probably have a house already, maybe even have another one, or even a third house, the fact is that you can release potential in your second house or the third house. What other people do also, another arbitrage opportunity for Sister Alwampa, another arbitrage opportunity I didn't put in that slide. Some people would go and get what they call, if you already have a mortgage, you go and get money on top of the mortgage that you have. Okay? There's a term that they use for it. Just keep my mind right now. You're going to get money on top of the mortgage. Let's say your mortgage is 1 million for a house. And then when you do the valuation of the house, they tell you the house is worth 1.5. So it means, technically speaking, there's an intrinsic value which Damomba talked about of 500,000. So you tell the bank, okay, look, give me that extra 500,000 on the value of my loan there. The bank usually will give you, or worst extreme cases, they will say, we can only give you 80% of that value. Okay? Let's say they say we give 100%. They give you another 500. Now that 500 they have given you, you have an option to either pump it into the existing house, very unwise decision, or you can say, look, let me pump it into another asset. So you can actually say, okay, let me buy a bond. I get an extra, I buy a bond. What you have essentially done is, the new bond that you have bought, chances are that the coupons will be able to pay off for the mortgage of the existing bond. So that money which you are coughing from your salary or from your pocket to service that particular mortgage, it will disappear if you get it right. And this you have to look at a case-by-case basis. You look at the numbers and trying to compute basically. So the arbitrage opportunities, Sister Lampa, there are so many. It's not about just borrowing from your institution. It can also be leveraging on your already existing assets that you have. Yeah? Then you do a capital release on that particular asset and be able to use that money to create more money. There are so many avenues. You can go in the bill, you can go in the fixed deposit. And let me even go to the slide for the fixed deposit. So on this particular slide, I think I'm done. All we are saying is there is money that is free on the table, which you can easily pick on it. Your situation might be unique. You may want to do one-on-one discussion with any person. That's fine. As we said, there's nothing wrong to consult in some of these things. People consult and they make money, okay? Now, bond is not the only way to go. There's also what they call bank deposits. This is elementary stuff with new information. These fixed deposits, when you hear of a fixed deposit, people say, no, fixed deposit, I can't do it, it's too low. Who says it's low? You have to read the signs and times. Currently, at the moment, liquidity is very tight in the market. Everyone is looking for kwacha. If you look out there, you find that the rate on fixed deposits, they have all gone what? Higher. That's why I say you should always interrogate the money you are keeping in the bank, how much interest they are paying you, and how much you can get from fixed deposit. Chances are that you don't do it. And you find that actually, fixed deposits are easy and basic to understand. They are tailor-made. Sometimes I don't want a bond that will take me 2 years. I want an investment that will be going to be just 30 days. The bill starts at 3 months. So me, I want less than 3 months. Where do I go? This is where now the fixed deposit comes in. And the beauty about fixed deposit is that you can determine when you want to get your interest. Most financial institutions will tell you, do you want your interest in front? Or do you want to pay it every month? Or do you want to be paid what? At the end. So it offers you a bit of some flexibility. Depending on your cash flow needs, you can say, no, what? Give me 2 months fixed deposit. I want interest paid up front. So it means I will eat my money at the beginning, but I'll get the whole entire capital in 2 months. So fixed deposits are very competitive. Always look out for competitive pricing from the banks. Interest payment, as I said, is very flexible, and it's also accepted collateral in some institutions. So if I have a fixed deposit that is running with that particular financial institution, and I need cash, I can tell them, look, my money is with you. It's with you. So can you give me an OD and use my fixed deposit as what? As collateral. So you can use it. And now I want you to pay very much attention on the right-hand side of this slide, where I say you can also look out for enhanced yield deposits. If you have noticed, this year, almost all the banks, they are running promotions. Have you noticed? They will tell you if you bring your money, after this period we'll give you this. And what? You know, those promotions, they don't come all the time. Their T's and C's apply, of course, to them. But I'll tell you one thing. Try to work backwards and see the interest rates they're giving you on those promotions. You'll be shocked how much money the banks are giving you. If your default is to say, banks, I don't do fixed deposits, I don't do promos, you're missing the point. The point I'm trying to make here is, there are sometimes opportunities that comes once, and if you don't jump on it, you have lost. And I'm talking about opportunities in the mainstream banking here. I'm not talking microfin, I'm not talking these other investments. I'm talking of the safer mainstream banking. The banks offer promotions. Currently, almost every bank I know here in Zambia this year is giving a promotions. I've worked backwards to see how much in yield terms, interest rate terms, the banks are paying. And my simple calculation shows that the banks are actually, in these promotions, they are paying more than 30%. Why? It's because they need cash. They have 2 reasons. 1, they need cash. 2, they need to protect what? Their deposits. Because if everyone is looking for cash, they will be talking to the same customers, right? So you as a bank, you don't want somebody to take your customer. So if you're somebody else running a promo, you think I'll remain? I'll run my own promo. And my promo should not be the same as that other person, because there will be no motivation for the customer to move from him to me. So the promos are going to be tailored to what I want. So essentially what's happening, what would happen is a bank will probably come, I don't mention any bank, I'm talking in generic terms here. I don't want somebody to come and say, this one talked about this bank. Nah, I'm not going to have that on my name. I'm talking in generic terms. So a bank will tell you, okay, if you give me 20,000 kwacha, or maybe that would be too open. Let's say the bank will say, if you give me 5,000 kwacha, I keep it for 3 months, I'll give you, on top of that 5,000 kwacha, I'll give you 2,000 kwacha. They're not saying, I'll pay you interest rate of this. They're just telling you a promotion. All you need to do is make sure that money does not move, is there. Your interest should be okay. 5,000 I'm getting an extra 100,000. how much interest rate are they paying me? Work backwards. You'll be shocked that the interest rate you find, it will be higher than treasury bills, it will be higher than the bonds, it will be a lot higher than what you actually thought about. I'm giving that as an example. What point am I driving at? The point I'm driving at is look out for these promotions. You see, the children of God, we should be the one that have the knowledge. Okay? We should not die because we do not have the knowledge. When these things are being done, if you don't understand it yourself as a layman, we have a lot of people in our church that work for this financial institution. Call them. I've seen that this institution is running what? This promo. How can it help me? Then they will be able to help you out. So all we're saying is that, remember we're talking about wealth creation. Okay? We just want to be in a situation where your money is working for you and you are creating more wealth. Okay, so away from that, the another stream, this one I won't spend much time on it. We're talking about mutual funds. This can be local, they can be foreign. These are just other avenues you can make money. Now, these ones, others would want to go and buy some stock. You know, in Zambia here, you can go via the stock exchange, you can buy some shares in companies. You need professional advice, I need to emphasize. And usually when you want to buy stock, please, it's not for speculative, okay, it can be speculative, but it's not for short-term trading. Normally you are looking at the long-term prospects of your gain. You're looking at, I'm investing in a company. So generally speaking, every company should be making profits every year, right? Such that they pay you the dividend. So these are long-term focus. Dividends are paid depending on how the index is performing. But the point I'm trying to make here is there's an avenue for you to invest in the stock exchange. You need professional advice. If you are a long-term investor, you have loose money that you think you may not require to use it now, why not put money there? The next part here, you can also do long-term annuities. Sister Lompa stepped out. I would love her to talk more about this, but she does this almost every day. We're talking about, you know, Elder Momba is here. Maybe Elder Momba can even talk about this thing. You see, there are pensions that are driven sometimes by statutory acts, or others are private. Okay, all of them will have some backing from the state in one way or the other. What we are saying is we should not shun away from putting aside money that will help you in your retirement. Remember the excitement that was there, is it a year ago when the 20% NAPSA was hitting our accounts? Remember that kind of excitement that was there? It's what we're talking about. Social protection is very important for everyone, and you do not have to be in a formal sector for you to have some social protection of some kind. It can be government, which is mandatory under NAPSA, or it can be in private pension funds. All we are saying is, what you'll be putting aside as premiums every month, it's usually very small amount and negligible. It may not even change your spending pattern in the month. But what that will do for you over a long period of time is a lot. Because at the time when you retire, then they say, okay, we have converted all your money into annuities. I don't know whether they give a lump sum out of it. I'm not very familiar with that, so I will not go into that territory. But let's assume they're not even giving you anything, lump sum. They just say, everything, we are converting it. You'll be getting a monthly salary if it's NAPSA, they say, until you die. No, at that time you're old, you're frail, you do not have the energy to work. Amount might look small now, but when you're not working and you're getting a 5,000 as an annuity, it's not small money. Or even 2,000, it's not small money. So the point I'm trying to make is we need to be very deliberate, interrogate the people that we worship with. We know they work for pension houses, they work for insurance companies. Let's ask them questions. What are some of the retirement packages that you have which you can start investing in them now? Because when you are old, you will need that, okay? So you can do annuities. There's usually minimal initial premium, and they, as I say, they help you in retirement. They can be private, they can be statutory. So let's take advantage of that. The last part of this side, this is simple and straightforward, right? Insurance policies. People don't want to do insurance policies. I always give this as an example. There was a guy, I think when I just started work, okay, somehow he came and he was selling a death policy. And the people at the office, they nicknamed him Dr. Death. Each time he comes, he's just basically coming from an insurance company, showing you, this death policy when you die, sort of we can cater for your family member like that, and what. And people saying, when each time they hear his downstairs, the guy is Dr. Death is come. And so they gave him a very bad connotation. But with hindsight, having grown, and I'm a bit wiser now, you see, what he was doing is very important. Because at death, there's a lot of expenditure that comes in. But once you have those policies, they pay. I mean, we've been funerals, whether it's friends or families, where you're stuck, right? Then you say, no, Bazali Pira Madison. You remember such things. And then the coffin comes. It comes in handy, right? But it had to take somebody taking that policy. You see, we take things for granted. And sometimes maybe it's the way our tradition is cultured, right? I tell my brother Nevis here that I've done a death policy on you. And he's looking at me, he wants to kill me, this brother of mine. How can he put me on a death policy? You see the way it is. Traditionally, people start thinking like that. So, and people shun away. But look, do it for yourself. Okay? So do it for yourself. Because everyone knows that I'm going to die at some point. So do a policy for yourself. At least, okay, do it for yourself and for your children. Because no one is going to say, no, but why are you doing it on your children? They are your children. You can make a policy there. Your children and your spouse, do it. Have those policies. These policies are very important. Others can be medical in nature. Others can be educational in nature. Others can just be an emergency cover fund. You just want, when in the case of eventuality, like last year, when we had this drought, Elder Momba, I hear there's some farmers that were insured, right? That insured their crop. So while everyone else was crying that the drought has wiped them out, themselves were smiling, going to the what? To the bank, to the insurance company, said, look, my crop failed. I insured them. And then they were able to get their money and they survived, okay? So those things are there. So you need to open up your mind and be able to take advantage of some of these things. No one will come and tell you these are available because, as I said, people now, they want to make money. So that's why they go into just motivational speaking, and then if you want to go and even in motivational speaking, they will charge you. And then things that are specific on investment, no one wants to tell you until you go to them and then they give you a bill. Others, they say, you think talking is cheap until you hire a lawyer. Then you know that talking is not cheap at all because you pay for every minute that the person is giving that advice. So when advice comes to you free, you have people that, like in this church, you want to know about pensions. Surely Elder Momba is there. You want to know how to run a business as a small entrepreneur. Elder Kaluba is there. The CFOs are there. The people are there in this church. Don't use these people. I don't think when you go to Brother Kaluba and tell him, Brother Kaluba, I want to invest in this thing. Can you help me? He's going to say, okay, I'm going to charge you this thing. He's going to sit down and explain to you. But if you don't ask him, you think Elder Momba will just voluntarily just come to you and say, I want to teach you about this thing. He won't come because he's thinking, I'm imposing myself on these people. And sometimes when you impose yourself on people, you don't know how they are thinking, right? There's a thin line between encouraging somebody and people thinking you're bragging. There's a very thin line there. So most people will shun away. So I guess if there's any advice I can give you is that reach out. Be the one to reach out. You don't lose anything, you men. You don't lose anything by asking somebody the thing that you do not understand yourself. You cannot be a jack of all trades. There will be things that you know and things that you don't know. Go and ask. I was always making an appeal as if we are doing a sermon. Now let's do the last slide. The last slide is on real estate. This one, I'm talking to the converted. You need to invest in real estate. It goes without saying. The advantage is that you can finance this on real estate. Is the most fancied. The oldest investment around is real estate. And real estate can stand the test of time. You can pass it over generation and generation, okay? So, and then it's also a well source of recognized collateral. We've talked about it. If you have a lot of plots, you want money, you can go and surrender one plot to the bank, and then they give you money, okay? So real estate, it can be a low risk. It's usually a low risk but a high rewarding investment. There are very decent capital gains. We have talked about it. A house that is worth 500,000 this year, next year it will probably be worth 600,000. There's a capital gain, okay? The Rwandese have taken that model very well. So if you notice what the Rwandese are doing is they go into an area, affluent area, buy the plot, build the house. The moment the house is finished, they go and sell it. Have you noticed that trend? They are doing it. You know what they are doing essentially is because they are bringing in massive capital. And when they go in that, and they're in a hurry to finish the house, they are buying things in bulk. which is significantly dropping their cost. So maybe a house which ideally if you built over 5 years would cost you 2 million, because they're building it within 3 months, it has costed them 600,000. But when they finish it, what will be the market value of that house? It's 2 million. So they will sell it for 2 million. The guy has walked out with a profit of 1.4 there. So there's that model which you can do, okay? And again, as I say, you have to open your eyes to these opportunities. Now, what variations are there in real estate? You can go the commercial route, you can go the commercial rentals, or you can go the private rentals. The commercial route is maybe buying for shops, and this one is also very good because, like in upcoming neighborhoods, you realize that people will be buying, just building houses. At the end of the day, they realize that there's no shop nearby. They are all going to the next mall. Be the one that will say, okay, in this upcoming neighborhood, the plot I'll buy, the corner plot, I want to build a shopping complex there. Because if you do that, when everyone has finished doing their houses, say, oh, hang on, I'll put the shopping complex. Everyone will come to buy from you. Actually, again, the Rwandese are beating us on this one. All they will do is, it's an upcoming complex. People are buying plots. They will buy the first plot. They won't put a shop. They will put a block-making company there. Why? Because they know everyone who is in this place, they want to buy blocks. And so, then they get a prime plot at the beginning, put a block-making company. So all of you are building, who will bypass their company to go and buy blocks from somewhere else? Because you are trying to avoid transport costs, right? So you're going to be buying blocks from him. The moment everyone else has built there, he knows that no one will buy blocks anymore. What does he do? He now puts a shopping complex there. Again, you'll be going back there to be buying it from who? His shop. So he's benefited from the whole entire value chain. Before the houses were there, he's supplying your materials. When you have built your house, now he's supplying your household needs. So you see the shift there in thinking there. So you need to be in real estate, don't think because Nari Kureng and I'll be getting rentals, that's the way to be throughout. No. You need to know that at some point, you need to relinquish value out of that property. Okay? You can say, oh, no. Look, I already have where I'm staying. This other house is giving me, we did the number 60,000 every year. No, I don't think I need that. Let me sell that. If I can raise $1 million, I buy a 15-year bond, which is going to be giving you the numbers. You saw them. Have you lost out anything? Nothing. You're still playing in the real estate, except that you are changing things around. And the emerging trends nowadays in real estate is that be strategic in how you position yourselves. We know what the government policy is. Government policy is what? Education. That's a priority, right? Free education. Free education comes with its own business opportunities. It means there will be more children that are enrolled in schools and universities. If there are more enrolled, do the universities have the capacity to be able to give accommodation to all of them? Answer is what? No. So if there's an university coming up in that area, so why don't you be the one to offer what? The apartments there. Again, you go and consult for people that are doing there. There are a lot of them in this church. You go to them, look, I know you are doing this model. How can you help? You find that if we are to do the numbers, you find that what you'll be getting from the apartments is 5-6 times more than what you'll be getting from a standalone house where you're doing for renters. The numbers are there. It's just that we don't, again, consult for fear that Bazani Wanelam. So there are so many emerging trends that you can see. There's the economic use of land. If you buy a plot, a 30 by 20, you go and put a house which is 20 by 15. Essentially, you've taken the whole plot, and that house, 2-3 years, your kids are going to leave you. Or not 2-3, 10 years, the kids leave you. What are you going to do with that house? You'll just be looking at the two of you in that house. Yeah? Back to honeymoon, the two of you in a big house. It's very difficult, right? So you have to be very, very strategic in also how you use that particular land that you're building. Most chances is that they end up selling that house, or sentimental reason, okay, we built it, so we stay here. You stay there, but you are holding on to value that could be released for you to do something else. The last point which I put there is very controversial. It's the issue of the ghetto landlord. All of us, we want to go and build in Kablonga, in Chalala, in what? But let me tell you, consult people. The one who is building in the ghetto may actually be making more money than you who is building in Chalala. A lot of money than you. Because on a 20 by 30, he's probably going to have a lot of units there. And in a ghetto, occupancy rate is 100%. One moves out today, the other one goes in the following day. In Kablonga, one moves out 6 months, you don't have a tenant. And you just be waiting to find the tenant. So what we're saying is, real estate is big. I cannot do justice to this in a few minutes. But what I'm saying is, open up your minds. Look out for what is trending out there and get people to help you out. Don't get out of your box, okay? Get out. We have been trained by our parents in a particular way. We thank our parents for training us like that. But let's also be thinking outside what our parents taught us and release value. So having said that, that's the end of the conversation, of the presentation. I'll thank you very much for listening. I've taken 20 minutes of your time. It was necessary that I go this far, but let me just open it up for questions. Maybe another few minutes. We can take 3, 4 questions, and then we can wrap it up there. Brother Luca, as I can see a hand already. Please just come. If you have a question, just come here in front so that we make it very quickly. My elder, just come here. Question and contributions. Sorry, it's questions and contributions.
You can come, questions and contributions.
Mine is a contribution. First of all, I want to thank the elder for the presentation of this topic. Now, we need to understand that we have had such lessons, okay? We have had such lessons, but we are at the same point. It's that we get excited, but in a short time, even this which as you are presented, I'm very sure that come next Sabbath, all these messages and the passions that we have now will have gone. So it is important that we concentrate. Now, the first thing is we need knowledge to go into the business. Okay, we need knowledge, and this is appreciative. And what you have brought now, oftentimes, like in the Zambian perspective or market, we never had such individuals. The few people who had such knowledge are the ones now who we call the richest people in Zambia. Okay? Now, knowledge is very important. When Elder Himani lost the parents, we went there. I was discussing with him, and there were 2 of his relatives who were there. He had done cabbage there. And these 2, they told us to say, look, that cabbage which is there, you will not reap anything. Why? Because there are insects that are eating there. Yet the owner didn't know to say the whole field actually will be done away with. So knowledge is something which is very important. So let us invest in knowledge, and we should be able to know, therefore, that which business am I going to go to. Oftentimes, because my friend is doing tomato, you want to go there when you don't have the knowledge. Oh, this one is doing grocery, I need also to go there. This is why in short time businesses are closing up and so on. So knowledge is something that is very important. Dangote said, you can make me wake up at 21 hours. I will tell you about the issue of cement. Why? This is the man who went to university, did chemistry, engineering. He knows the composition of cement. So knowledge is something that is very important. Then synergies, partnership. All those that you know, including the Bill Gates, they started as partners, okay? And today, even if they went alone, they have got that stability because there is what? Equity partnership. Equity partnership can start between husband and wife. But is it sustainable? It depends on your attitude. I can go into business with Brother Kaluba, but depending on our attitude, we may not stay. So equity partnership is something that is very important. Then go for what you enjoy doing. Don't be forced. Now, business is not like a profession where to say, I'm a nurse, and my nurse, because I'm a nurse, is just a stepping stone to being a bank manager. Business is not like that. There is nothing like it's a stepping stone. You must be able to have the passion of it I have seen people who are selling at the house, they put tomato there. But you never find a person. You keep on knocking. You keep on knocking. And yet, it's because they do not enjoy to be there. Some of them, they even run. They even send a child to say, go and akakulis, because they are not into it. You have to have the passion of what you are supposed to do. Like agriculture, in short. Agriculture, always we think that it's production. There are a lot of value chains that are there. You can be just in trading, buying what has been produced. The other one is producing. The other one is doing packaging. You concentrate just on packaging. But in Zambia, all what we know is that farming is production. So it is important that we enjoy doing what we need to do. Otherwise, we always think that there is only one business that we can do. Then enjoy the process. Now, what am I saying, enjoying the process? Always, when we think of business, we always say, nifuna ndalama, chabi. We do not enjoy the process. Now, getting to where money is, you have to wait and sweat for you to get there. He talked of managing, there's that word, where you must be there as the owner of the business. Now, to those that are doing farming, this is the last part. Those that are doing farming, whether it's livestock or actual farming, you must be there. There is nothing like remote control. Otherwise, you end up losing, to tell you the truth. Thank you.
Brother Karuba, you can come. He has talked too much. Next after you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's just a contribution. I wanted to say something over my experience in maybe in the HR payroll related. What I have noticed is that he mentioned of the pensions. That's what I want to talk about. Sister Wanpa is not here. It's the profession that field. But I've seen so many people that still demand that when they are working, they need to get a gratuity. That's okay. They don't want to be on pension. And it's mandatory by government that everyone who works contributes to NAPSA. I know we know. All of us who are working, either we are contributing to public pensions, or we are contributing to what? NAPSA. Now, let me tell you this one thing. Through my work, I have seen somebody who was working and getting a 500 kwacha salary for all the years and contributing NAPSA, maybe 15 kwacha, 20 kwacha, and things like that. After retiring, I think it should be last year, I was doing the computation, the NAPSA, and everything for that individual. Do you know what this person is getting now? The minimum payable by NAPSA? It's 1,480. So this person is still working, a lowly job. Now, from the where she was working, she's still working and getting about 1,500. And NAPSA is also paying her 1,490. That's basically what NAPSA is paying. Now, can you imagine that you're working and the company gives you another pension like Providential or Satunya, where Mr. Rwampa works, and they're also cutting a 5% of your money? You're going to have the 5% with interest on it. NAPSA is also will be giving you that when you retire, and you also get probably the gratuity at the end of your work. So at the end of the way, you're going to have income that is going to sustain you in your life. So don't look at yourself now. You may be having bread and butter today, but when you stop work, to get even a 20 kwacha is very difficult. Even the business you're going to do when you grow old, you will not have the energy to do that. So when you invest in what we're talking about, like in a pension or estates or any other things, that's going to give you income to sustain you when you grow old. You have seen so many people who are old. They have no income. You end up committing suicide. So this is the time that when you're working, try to do some investment. Even your company when you're working, that investment can also do another investment, just keeping the little money that you are gaining. So that is going to sustain you. Again, the 20%, according to the information that we have been taught, you do a 20% of your NAPSA. Most of them, we are even drawing maybe 20,000, 50,000. And if you get that 20,000, 50,000, you put it in the treasury bills, do not just chew that money. That will begin to generate what? Income for your life. Because at the end of 10 years from now, probably would have retired. And then you have the income that is going to be coming. So the investment, as he's talking about, the small investment that we do, matters a lot for your life. And I can tell you, even you people have got maids at home. Please, I told my wife, I said, no, we have a maid, but you must actually put this maid on NAPSA. I mean, that's a life. So you have got maids. Please, by all means, it doesn't cost a lot of money. Put that maid on that NAPSA. You'll be just generating probably maybe 40 kwacha or 30 kwacha, you know? And at the end of the life working career, 15 years continuous working, you qualify to be given a what? A pension. Until you die, you continue getting the minimum that you declare. Like now this year, it's 1,490, 1,480, somewhere there. That's the minimum that NAPSA is doing what? Is paying out. So let's begin to do this investment either for our children, for the maids, for those who are working with us. We do that, we can get in this value, and you will not be stuck at the end of the day. As he's saying, that money that you get, partial 20%, don't chew it. Invest it so it begins to give you what? Income. So that's just my contribution on this part. Thank you so much.
Elder Momba will summarize. Summarize, then we'll have a song from GT, then we'll see what next.
Thank you. Actually, on the bonds, when you go to Bank of Zambia, I think on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they do free lessons, and for those who are struggling maybe to open accounts, they are very helpful. My question is on issues of bonds, real estate, and all these investments and the savings. Not just on the individual basis, how about doing it on corporate basis as a church? I think looking at the issues now, the church, somehow we are struggling and activities come and our people are so stressed and we look for money, so many activities that we have to find. What is our church doing? Because we see other churches like UCZ, they've got the buildings that they rent out, revenue come. What is wrong with our church? I was very disappointed when we had the program for the Women's Congress at Rusango. Because the picture that we have Rusango and seeing Rusango, to me, we could have been somewhere else. Being the place where Adventism started and the university for our church, it needed to be state of the art, not what is there. What is the problem with our church? We've got activities that we do. We go and rent out from other churches, and yet we've got capacity. There's land where we can build, we can have buildings that we are having our own activities. Today, the teachers and the lecturers are having a program on the Sabbath at McKinney School of Nursing. I'm sure they are paying. We have the capacity. We've got land we can build. So on a corporate level, what are we doing as a church? I think we can relieve the pressure from the church, and evangelism will even be better when you have other avenues. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so just a quick question on, and a quick contribution. Sister Ntinga is absolutely right. So, if Kabwata is not doing that, I think you just need to consider, because other churches are doing it. So, from the police point of view, from the part of the church is not averse to investments that the individual, the respective churches can do. The investments that you talked about, Sister Ntinga, other churches are doing it. I know one particular church which will be doing a very big project, and they have bonds that are running. they'll be using the coupons that are coming from that bond to sustain the lifestyle of that project. So if we're not doing it here or in some of our churches, perhaps it's an issue of maybe not having considered it, or it could be that maybe the way we are running our finances, we have found ourselves in a situation where we are hand to mouth. Okay, so it's a situation where we've not gotten our budgeting right at a SSPC level, such that we at any particular time, we don't have any brought forward funds. So each time there's excess funds, we are pushing it into consumption at church. But I think a prudent running church should be in such a way that, like right now, we'll be changing offices. If I am handing over, like as I said, I'm elder in charge of treasury this year, in addition to being associate. At the end of the year, when I'm handing over to the incoming associate or elder in charge of treasury, I should be able to give this the balance brought forward of big man from. So now it's up to that person, the board now that said, okay, this balance brought forward. What do we do? Because what we're planning for, it will be funded by the incomes that will come for the subsequent year. This is brought forward. The default position for most of our churches, if money, we are finishing in December, before our term finishes, we have to make sure that we blow all this money. That's where the problem is. But you see, most churches that have prudent way of doing funds, they'll say, no, we are carrying it over. They will maybe squeeze one capex item in December, but a huge chunk, you put it at a head start for the next year. It's very embarrassing what we're talking about of churches, us going to rent from other people. It's the same thing with the campsite. Why should we be going to rent a campsite? As a church, you should be able to have your own campsite as an individual church, not as a district. You need to have your own campsite, because this issue of we're putting money together, we're putting a communal campsite. When the separations come for the church, bitter divorce comes in, asset grabbing comes in, then you have a problem. So if it's all about leadership being visionary, seeing where you want to go as a church, and putting priorities where it has to be. No wonder it's important every church to have a well-functioning SSPC, because those are the people who are going to take a long-term view of where the church wants to go and put those plans. So you're right, my sister. I agree 100% with what you have said.
As Wedamumba is summarizing, he is just giving us a summary.
Thank you very much. We don't speak because we want to contribute. It's because we want to impart expert knowledge. So I'm not going to summarize or explain properly. You see, I wanted to address the issue of insurance. Insurance is an investment vehicle. And we need to go to an insurance company, sit down with them, and see what is being offered. There was a time, I think I was moving around the church with a sling. I had broken my hand. After I broke my hand, I was actually rushing to go and preach somewhere. I broke my hand. When I went back to the office after 3 weeks of leave, I was told that, you know that you can actually claim. Then I went through all the processes. For that hand you saw broken, I was actually paid 55,000 kwacha in cash. Now, what's the lesson there? The lesson is, on an individual level, pay insurance. There's what we call GPA, Group Personal Accident. They pay very well. Any accident anywhere, or any kumoba, you will still be what? You will still be paid. So companies do that. Forgive the joke. Now, there's also death insurance. You know, when you are doing a research on trusts, the trust companies, they will insure all members of the family. You put them. If you have got 2 houses, turn over the ownership of the house to a trust. Then when you do a trust, you pay insurance for all beneficiaries of that trust, who are your children and your parents. So if anything happens to your children, accident anywhere, you'll be paid something in the sum of 50,000, 80,000, depending on your contribution. And the contributions are so low. For a company that has got contributions for 1 million, if your wage bill is 1 million, you pay something like 1.2 per year.
or 3 million per year. But the insurance that is there is so big. There's also death insurance. Where I used to work, if any member of staff died, the insurance was somewhere around 1.5, 2 million kwacha. Now, when you have done a trust, any member of the trust who dies, the trust is given how much? About 3 million, even 4 million, 7 million. Because if you have a trust, then you start contributing. Wow, you are young, a child is born, you are contributing. By the time that child dies, it will be 15 million, 10 million. But when you look at the time we spend working for a company, or just worked for 10 years, the insurance that is paid is about 3 million already. Now, I'm not saying people should start dying. Now, that's a comment on insurance. It's a serious investment vehicle. When Sister Ntinga was talking about the church, my point was already written here to say the church needs to do what we call an IPS, an investment policy statement, which will guide how the church should invest in bonds, in fixed term deposit, in shares, in all these things. The General Conference does that. Here at Kabwata, every program, members have to take out money. If for the last 30 years we were putting aside as much as 5,000, the church was going to be making more money than the tithes and offerings. AMO, let us get organized and start contributing to government bonds, buying shares and everything like that. Every time we meet for AMO, we contribute 5,000. This month, 5,000. Other month, 5,000. We could have a bit of shares in there. Then the rest goes to the church. There are some churches in the world that are so rich, not because of the tithes and offerings, no, because of the investments. Then when we come to the pensions, I'll tell you one thing. A pension scheme never makes a loss. NAPSA has never made a loss. Never. Why? Because of the instruments they invest in. Then, lastly, I have not finished, but because I have to be brief, I will withhold some of the information. Real estate, there are some rules there. Rule number 1, buy a proper plot with the proper papers, with the proper institution. Don't break that rule. Rule number 2, have professionally done drawings. Your drawings must be properly approved. Not you go to the site, you start saying, Papa Zankara sitting room, then Papa Zankara Chani dining room. Yeah, dining room, okay, pranyani manje mzafaka. What will happen is that when you finish building, the council will break down that thing. And when you try to sell that property, the one who's going to buy will complain, the sitting room is too small. No, this is confused. There is chaos in Kanyama. Don't think you are a good architect. Give it to the professionals to do it so that you get good value. So my appeal to the church board, in fact, I'm going to write a letter to the church board to propose an investment plan. This is something that I have done for years. When you did not see me sometime coming to working late, I can't answer your call. It's because we had done investments to a point where every month we are investing in government bonds, treasury bills, fixed term deposit, collective investment, corporate bonds, real estate. All these things were running every month, so that every 3 days the company was getting coupons, interest in this and that. So you have this spreadsheet running into maybe 15 pages, accounting for the money that is doing what? Coming. So even as a church, every time we collect offering, ienda kuma bond, ienda ku fixed term deposit, corporate bonds, ienda ku collective investments, ni real estate, ienda ku. every week the money is going in. And what will happen is that every week the church now, you have to employ a full-time accountant as a church to account for the monies that are coming in every day. Women ministries start government bonds. Dorcas mothers start government bonds. Amo start government bonds. The church government bonds. There will be a traffic of investment in Daramazingo Ngena. Every day money is coming in. That's where the church should go. Now, the church should not be going to people asking for money. People must come to the church to say, Tifunako Ndarama. Why? The church is an investment center, because the Bible also says that people must look to the church. Now the church is looking to the people. Let us do an investment policy plan and start investing at the church so that in the next 5 to 10 years, people will be looking to the church for finance.
Thank you very much. This time I'll call our pastor to come. That's a privilege to have our own pastor. So if we have questions, clarifications, our elder has mentioned in good names here, so we can even see them.
Okay, good evening, saints. Well, we are so grateful to Jehovah for this day. I am so sure we have learned. I pray that God will give us a grace to be practical. I pray that God will give us a grace to be practical over these matters. And the one thing we also need to know, I will request that you should be free to ask from the saints around. Elder Mupango is here. I have not requested for permission, but I request that if the saints want to consult from you, may they be welcome to you, and I know which is the case. So I pray that God will give us a grace to be practical in these matters. Because I know many times we complain as a church, no, stima punzira. But the truth is, kupunzira kweve kulipo. Some few weeks ago, we were at Jacaranda Church, where the church bought food for everyone. The church called the professionals from government and some from private institutions. Interesting enough, only 50% of the total expected attendance were present. And so I think we need to graduate from a point where we begin to complain to say we don't learn, but we have been intentional in terms of not wanting to attend. But now, my request is, since we are here, we can still help others to be able to participate in the things that we have learned today. May our hearts be provoked so that we should be able to go out there and do our part and permit God to do what he can do, that which we can't do. Finally, I want to say thank you to Elder Mupango and Mrs. Mupango for accepting to come to Kabwata. Spending 2 Sabbaths here, I just want to say thank you so much. And for me, I will move a motion so that even at our camp meeting next year, you should be able to come and present the stuff you have presented here. I want to say thank you so much. May God bless you as you continue to minister at Chainama. Amen. At this point in time, we shall stand for prayer. Shall we pray? Sovereign God, thank you for your grace and for being with us. Indeed, we have learned all these issues. We just want to pray that may you give us a grace to each day see opportunities around us. After having such information, we pray that God help us to be practical, because it is true that you bless the labors of our hands. You give us life, you give us energy. There is nothing more, Heavenly Father. We just want to pray that now help us to go and do that which we are required to do on our part. Thank you for Elder Mupango and Mrs. Mupango and family. I pray that may you continue giving grace to this family. Continue blessing them. Continue, Heavenly Father, protecting them, giving them many more days on earth. And indeed, may the favor from above written upon their faces as a signature. bless us all now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. We'll call it a Sabbath. This thing is a lost thing, lost but found. If you know the owner or you are the owner, you can come and get it. So again, a reminder, as echo the GT, to come and give us a dispersing song. Tomorrow, the Pathfinder Week of Prayer is starting. We are all invited the whole week. It is free of charge. Come and support and listen and be revived during this week. And then on 28th, the other week, we'll have a building promotion. Let's be ready for these coming events. May God bless us all. Amen.
Ezekiel saw the wheel where in the middle of the air. Ezekiel saw the wheel where in the middle of the air. Ezekiel saw the wheel where in the middle of the air. Ezekiel saw the wheel where in the middle of the air.
For some go to church or to sing and shout.
Some go to church for to sing and shout.
Hallelujah,
hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Before 6 months day of tender,
we're in the middle of the air. Ezekiel's wheel way in the middle of the air. As oh, the wheel, we're in the middle of the air. Ezekiel saw the wheel, we're in the middle of the
Jigombelo jagaba mayu
mayubilo abasimujitahidi anze bala sampuya inanyaleza alimwiranya jigombelo jagaba mayubilo abasimujitahidi anze bala sampuya inanyaleza alimwiranya jigombelo amana guhamanda mumasena omu motukala bamana guwahi bantu banina mulandu